Welcome to episode 35 of It's Server Time. We got the usual gang, the usual suspects here with us. We're going to be talking about the roster shuffle and what we've seen so far. There's only been a handful of BO1s at the Blast Fall groups, but taking a look at them, and we have things to say. We have our thoughts, but first things first, Pernogo mentioned this off camera, but I'm going to bring it up because I don't want a million people to ask, why did I shave my head? And so I did it for a handful of reasons. One, I think it looks badass. Two, it's just low maintenance. It's just easier. It's just kind of, and basically, spoiler, I'm going to be in Poland for an event that's coming up, and I'm going to be there for 6 weeks potentially. And so I don't want to have to trust conversing with Polish barbers how to cut my hair every time. Okay. So I think this is just a lot easier than just being like than saying no, a little more off the top. Oh no, wait, no, just shave the sides a little bit more. I'll probably get a touch up there. Like I'll just get a lineup, but I'm definitely not gonna ask a Polish guy to do anything with scissors. Okay, it's just a bad idea. I've been to enough European countries now to know if they're using the clippers, they'll be fine. But if they start using scissors, it's a grab bag, and you have no idea what's gonna happen. And that's nothing against Polish barbers in particular. It's just that people that don't speak English fluently. I've even had people in London who didn't speak English that fluently just not get what I was trying to say at all. And I'm done with it. I'm done. Like, it's just too much work. It's just thoughts on shaved heads, guys.
Yeah, taking matters into his own hands, I see. Yeah.
Not for me, but I respect it.
Yeah, likewise.
I'm the guy with probably the longest hair. So.
I respect the approach to the solution for this.
Yeah. No, you're actually on the lowest end of the totem pole in terms of length of hair now. So, and I don't know. It's kind of like a tie before, a three-way tie, I think before, but
I think usually I had a similar length to Note in terms of hair. Mix usually has something going on with his hair. Pernoga, you always have the longest because you tie it into like a bun or something at the back, right? Or like a kind of a ponytail thing?
Yeah, I actually never learned how to tie it into a man bun, and it's just as well because I kind of think that that's stupid. But I mean, okay. when you're tying it into a ponytail, which is like eminently more popular amongst the opposite sex, you don't really have much room to stand on in terms of critiquing other people's hairstyles. So I usually keep that bit of critique to myself. But yeah, it's almost always a ponytail if I'm trying to be somewhat more formal or whatever. Otherwise, it's just down. Although lately in the summer, I've just been like railing against it. You were right. It is much harder. Like in terms of maintenance, you were correct about the shaved head approach. That's one thing that I will forever be jealous of, but I'm almost certain that I look better this way, so.
Okay. So, 2 minutes in, and Polish barbers and man buns are very cod strays. 2 minutes into this podcast. All right, reasonable.
Yeah. Mix, you gonna shave your head next?
I might shave the sides, just keep them really short and keep most of this on top, but no, I'm not gonna go full shaved head. I think I did that when I was 8 and I cried after I got my haircut, so.
Wow. I think it's also something that I don't really have. I don't think the worst genetics. Like I don't think I'm gonna go bald too soon, but I now have the confidence to know that if I do, I'm just gonna get it over with. I'm not gonna play that frickin' game of just let's try to hide it. I shit you not. When I was actually walking after my haircut today to get to my gym, I saw 4 dudes who had just this big hole in their hair at the top, and I was like, yeah, that's never gonna be me. That's just as soon as that starts growing,
I've been waiting for MSL to go bald for 5 years at this point. So
yeah, and he pulled the trigger.
Did he?
Well, I thought he did. Didn't he pull the? Wait, I feel like
he might have, but for the longest time, he was still rocking whatever hair he had left. He was clinging onto it like Taco might or something.
No, he shaved it. Yeah, he shaved it. Yeah. He his latest HLTV photo, he's just completely bald, which makes him kind of look like an evil genius, which is kind of sick. He
topical, very topical.
Stop leaking roster moves.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that brings us very nicely into the first topic. There've obviously been a lot of roster moves. I think have we talked about them too much? Either way, we're going to talk about what we've seen of them. We're going to talk about, and the first team that, thanks to MSL's look on HLTV that we're going to get into, is going to be EG. They didn't really show at Blast their complete new roster yet. They brought in Nealon, they brought in Hext for Stewie and Rush, but they had to use Rush for this event instead of Automatic for... Does anybody know the exact reason?
No, it's just like he had to fly home for something. He was non-specific about it, but he said it was like something that he had to fly home for. So just like some sort of personal reason. And he should be back for the next stage, for the knockout stage.
Okay, that's cool. That's good to hear. But what they did at this event so far was they lost their, kind of predictably, I'd say, they lost their two BO1s. They lost 16-8 to FaZe and 16-6 to Big. And I don't think anybody would have predicted otherwise, but did you guys catch anything of this? Let's start with the good. Did you catch anything you liked about what EG showed here?
I actually think that they looked more cohesive on the T side than I've seen them in a long time. And that's right out the gate with a stand-in, with a new IGL. So hopefully, and a new coach, of course, we can't, pass over that. Or we could, but I didn't. And then generally, you look at the way that they work. They approached that Inferno T side, I thought, okay, they're feeling out the map. They're being deliberate. Maybe methodical would be too strong of a word, but they feel like they're doing stuff. And it's more like, I don't know, before they were sort of, sometimes you would see EG cosplay as like a top level team that's playing the European Counter-Strike style, and then they would just fall apart, and then they would, sort of regress to the mean, I guess. In this one, it felt more honest of an attempt, is the way that I would describe it. And in that first half, they were still they were doing a little bit of damage here and there. Again, nobody would expect them to take the W. People aren't even expecting them to do well in their next matchup in this tournament, and it's probably just because they didn't shock the world. They would have literally had to in this particular case in order to do anything. But yeah, I think right now it's too early to tell, and obviously the fact that this stage they don't have one of their players that everybody has been saying, has maybe the strongest chance to make a return, so to speak. Yeah, that's going to sting too. So yeah, hopefully they can show much better results in the future. But so far, I will just say Nealon seems like he kind of knows what's up on the T side. That's all I've been able to reverse engineer so far.
Yeah, I only caught a little bit of the FaZe EG game. I didn't catch their second one. I'm not really surprised at their result, both because they have a stand-in, but also like they're a relatively new team since they made 2 changes, and they're playing against FaZe and then Big, a pretty tactical team. Like, it's going to be hard to go into either of those matchups and be able to actually even get over 10 rounds, which they didn't. So I'm not really surprised about that. I think it was interesting reading the interview that Striker did with Automatic that got released today. I don't know if you guys have read it yet. I read it yesterday before it got published, but
fancy.
Essentially,
yeah, he's on the Patreon, dude. He gets early access. So.
Yeah, basically, one of the things he mentioned was the team he kind of helped, not necessarily scout Nealon, but they basically he did watch some of the demos before they picked him up and kind of got an idea of how he calls in their system, and he liked the idea of bringing in that Automatic liked the idea of bringing in some of that CIS style into the game. They're not really trying to implement it fully, from what he was saying. He's just trying to add elements of it to their game. So between reading that and also seeing the FaZe, only a little bit of the FaZe game, I wasn't really super invested in watching them play this round because they have a stand-in. I'm okay, already they're up against 2 teams who they're not really gonna play well against regardless. And then they're missing basically one of their best players at the moment in current form. So I was like, there's not really a point in watching either of these matches.
Right. Okay. So I actually came to a pretty similar conclusion to Pronogo actually when I watched the FaZe game, which I barely caught the big one, but the FaZe one, I'll say that one thing that was refreshing about the way that EG played this is that they didn't lose a player in the first 20 seconds of every single round, which was the case in the previous iteration where it felt like you would get Stewie or sometimes you would get Rush. or you would get some really just haphazard play designed for maybe Cirque or I guess, like you would see that kind of stuff a little too often on the last EG, whereas now with this one, they're taking their time and they're occasionally kind of switching up the pace. I'd say that Hex seems like probably the most willing to just start around pretty quickly. Like he was kind of flying up banana in that game very frequently, and whether it was always the safest play or not, that's probably up for debate. But actually, what was nice is that when he was interviewed by James Banks after, he said that James Banks asked him, "Did this feel much different than when you played before at lower tiers of Counter-Strike?" And Hex said that he felt like he just needs to be more methodical and deliberate with his approach. And I feel like that's kind of exactly what I was seeing too, because it just felt like he was running up too much, too quickly, which admittedly worked for him probably pretty well in NA because he just won a lot of fights. And
it's a good way to start because I mean, if that's how you're able to do it in NA, it's still good to do that against whatever European team you're playing, right? Just so you're just playing like a similar style that you've been comfortable with, especially in a game like this where you have like a stand-in, you have like a new IGL, you have to get used to like so many new things. If Hex just starts off playing like super passive and he's like, I'm gonna work up banana like I'm fucking, I don't know, like Zipnix or something, right? Like he's gonna be super methodical about everything. Like he's probably gonna get in his own head really quickly. So just flying up banana, just holding W, taking some aim fights. Fuck it, fuck these guys.
I think limit testing himself like this is probably actually a better way because you will almost surely get knocked down by FaZe if you want to try to be strategic about your approach. But if you just kind of test people, there was actually a moment, I don't know if it was Nealon or Hex, but someone caught Kerrigan with like a nade in hand at one point as they were going up banana. And I think it was Nealon, but like that could have happened for Hex. Okay, then it definitely like that's a moment where if Hex was able to win some fight like that, he'd probably think like, oh, this does work against anybody, and you can catch even the best team in the world with their pants down sometimes. So I'm not gonna say, okay, actually I'll poll you guys for this first. Do you guys think that this EG, I mean I feel like this is kind of a simple yes or no, but let's see if we have differing opinions on it. Do you think this EG is going to make it through the NA RMR or the Americas RMR?
I'm really tempted to just say yes, but I haven't looked at the teams.
It's 2 maps. It's always
I'm double checking the team list.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, it's 2 maps, but we're also expecting their roster to get better once they have they solve the stand-in conundrum, right? So I think just based on that, and based on the fact that they're getting this European practice, which a lot of the other teams are going to be more local, they're not going to have done that. I feel like there is a shoe-in. Like it would be, it would be maybe not more disappointing than the previous lineup not making it because of how many chances they had and because like they felt like they were just perennial check stealers by that point because they just seemed totally checked out. But in this particular case, I would say it would be more of an upset, I guess. Like you expect after all of these revisions and this huge overhaul, absolutely this should have happened. So yeah, I'll say yes.
Honestly, I'm going to say no. I mean, there's 2 qualifiers left. They're technically not even qualified right now. They still have to qualify for the NARMR.
Oh, they do.
They're literally not even in the event yet. So there's only 4 spots left. They're going to have to play those between traveling back for ESL Pro League as well. And then you have like Liquid, Furia, 00 Nation, Complexity, Oplano. I don't know. 9Z. Like it's going to be, there's actually a lot of contention for those spots. So I'm going to say they just barely don't make it. Maybe finish in 7th or something.
I'm like looking at the list and kind of seeing, and based on this, I'm kind of like 50-50 between it. So I'll just be a fucking homer and I'll say yes.
Love that. I love that. So
it's going to be really close, I think. They'll be like one of the last teams to qualify, I would say, if they make it.
Okay. Well, I kind of want to say yes because they were actually they were kind of a game away last time, right? They could have won 1 game and just made it, but then since they lost it, they had to play through some other weird bracket that they had to win 2 BO3s in or something. I think that this time there's they have to. How many teams make it again?
I think it's 6, right? So yeah.
It's a Swiss. It's a Swiss stage.
Oh, it is
yeah,
tough.
that's the thing.
It is tough. 6. Yeah, I thought it was 8. I thought if it were 8, I'd say yes. And now
if it was 8, I would have said yes for sure. But no.
Oh gosh. Oh,
Who do you
I'm switching.
favor more to make it through, EG or complexity?
Oh, complexity for sure.
Easily.
For sure.
Complexity? Okay.
Easy. We'll talk about complexity too. And in fact, we could shift to them. I'm gonna go with no. I'm gonna say no for EG. I thought it was 8. I thought it was 8 actually. So
I'm still saying yes. So
okay.
they're gonna make it through. They're gonna be a solid team. They're gonna be there. They'll be like, yeah, this is much better.
God, do we have to go through this now? I think we kind of have to go through.
We're split down the middle, dude. Literally down the middle.
Okay, let's talk about it. We have Liquid Fury and Furia making it through. I'm putting complexity through over them.
I'm put 0-0 Nation through as well.
Yes,
honestly.
I'm putting 0-0 Nation through also. So that's already 4 right there. And then
you have the new Imperial with Chelo.
You have the new Imperial with Chelo, which should be better. It should be better. It felt like Imperial were too motivated last major. Like they were let's prove ourselves, so they overperformed like crazy. But actually, on paper, they actually just got better. So
this is also a major in Brazil, so I'm pretty sure they'll be even more motivated.
Exactly, and that's why I think
Fallen can bring out the trophy, but he's not there. Come on, get real. You can't actually back Imperial after what they've done throughout the entire year. Like, come on, bro. No way.
I think they have a well, I'll say this. I think MIBR are better. I think MIBR are better.
I think MIBR are a contender. You got Pain and 9Z, and then there's EG. So those are like our 4 teams.
I could see Imperial knocking EG out, though. That's the thing. Like, they might not qualify themselves, but they definitely could, give EG some contention in the qualifier itself. So, the thing is, there's too many teams for me that stack up, well enough to not give EG a shot at one of the 6 spots. There's too many competitors that could knock them out, and there's not enough motivation for me to say that they're gonna make it past all of the teams on this list.
But is the EG you're thinking about actually the EG that you've seen at Blast for these 2 maps? Is it like a slightly better EG or something? Because I'm projecting into the future where they have a better lineup that they're more practiced with and more drilled with. They've got time, this event's in some time, right? And then also they've got the European practice, which is going to be a stark contrast to some of the other rosters that are here. So that's why I'm thinking, we still haven't admittedly seen if they're even going to make the RMR to begin with, but assuming they do, and I think it would be pretty difficult to say that there's other, big names that are waiting in the wings to steal the spot from them. I feel like this, if you have faith at all in the NA region, which may be dubious, then you probably should think that EG is going to be performing better than what they currently are at. You know what I mean? So.
But my more sound logic for why I would pick them is that I basically think that Liquid Furia, 0-0 Nation, Complexity are just 4 teams that are better. And then there's 2 spots left, and EG could occupy one of those spots. I hope that they do, but I also have no reason to believe that they will. Yet. Even with a slight improvement with automatic.
I don't need a reason, so I'm just going to say EG and Imperial will make it through.
Also,
EG and Imperial.
Sure.
Also, EG won't have that much European practice before. If they qualify, then yes, they will. But before the qualifiers to make it into the RMR, they won't, because the 2 qualifiers, the qualifying matches are on the 1st and the 4th, and then their EPL group is on the 20th. So they're not actually going to be in Europe. They're going to have to fly home right after Blast, play in the qualifier, and then they'll fly to Europe again. So, it's not like they have a ton of practice time before they play in the qualifiers. They should qualify, though. That's at the bare minimum, surely. Yeah.
You'd hope so. Okay. Let's
they can't lose to amazing NA team game X Gaming Gladiators right now. So
X Gaming Gladiators already qualified, so yeah.
I know, that's what I'm saying. They can't lose to them right now.
The teams that they surely they should surely make it through this, because the teams that kind of came in the next NA qualifier, the 3rd and 4th place were Brazen and Strife. If they lose to those kind of teams, you need to question everything that's going on with EG.
Then it's Panic Stations again, which, I guess they've just lived there for a long time as an org, so they're pretty familiar with that territory.
I suppose. Okay, let's move on to the other NA roster that is giving me more hope, and that is complexity. They pulled the trigger on removing Junior from the team, or benching him, that is, and then they brought in hallzerk, who, of course, made a pretty strong name for himself with Dignitas, because even though that team never truly found too much success, they had a lot of eyeballs on them, and I think people could safely say that the best players for that team most of the time were f0rest and hallzerk. I think even in the beginning of that roster, hallzerk looked like the best player for sure, and then kind of in the later months when I just saw them in random qualifiers here and there, it felt like maybe I actually believe in f0rest a little bit more, which was weird. Honestly, I don't know what to think of that team. Honestly, 8 months after it started, that's how I'll put it.
hallzerk kind of dropped off from like where he was initially. Like he wasn't like bad, but for a while, like on that Dignitas team, I felt like he was just kind of average. Like wasn't outstanding, wasn't like terrible, wasn't like he was like fucking dragging the team down or something. But it was just very like middling.
That's also kind of like what complexity could use. Like somebody who's stable. Like they don't need necessarily like a star opper. They just need someone who can like be stable, hit the shots that they need to, and like throw the nades and be in the right positions that they need to without someone micromanaging them and telling them that they have to like be in this position or like do this.
Yeah,
just
think about
I think
exactly
get
what they're
confidence
missing.
back and then get like the wheels actually under them and actually going. Like just having like any opera that's just stable and is able to help you out. Also, this is like the first time I'm pretty sure, unless I'm missing something, that they've played with like a European player that actually has a pretty good amount of experience in this team.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've never played with an NA player that has like a ton of experience, for the rest of them, right? Like this is the first time they've like really got someone that has like a very almost like different view of the game and like how they came up to everyone else. And the good part of it is that he still fits in pretty well with them. I just figure personality wise, like I know that like Ricky likes him, like you said, like he's got a mullet, he's practically American. But yeah, like it's good that like he fits in with those guys really well. Like there's not like a major cultural shock or like personality difference. And B, he comes from like an entirely different scene, which is something they've never had before. Someone that like has played with like these different styles of IGLs and different players and stuff like that. And that can be a real benefit to everyone else on the team.
Just think about how complexity fell apart in their other games before when, obviously they had Junior. They kind of, I don't want to sound really, really harsh with this, but they kind of already adapted their T sides to playing without a stable opper. And the problem is on CT side, you can't get away with that nearly as much. Like, you need your guy to be able to hold an angle and sort of tripwire somebody in certain positions. That's like a mandatory requirement. And if Junior's going to miss or try to go for some over correction or some sort of really crazy play, that's where the CT side starts to crumble, like first base. And it's obviously the most expensive gun in the game. And it's what you're trying to save all the time. And you imagine trying to put in all this investment that all the other European style Counter-Strike teams do, and then not really getting any returns from it. That's really going to be bad for confidence. It's going to be obviously bad for results. So yeah, if hallzerk, all he needs to do really is just point and click, then on the CT side at least, that's like an instant upgrade. And not to say that he won't be used at all in their T sides, but it's not really a requirement for Cole specifically. Like, these guys already kind of know how to operate on the map. And if they can decide to use him, if he does want to get aggressive, if he does want to try a strat where he crowbars in a site or he sets up for some sort of more set piece oriented strategy, then they can do it. But at least in this particular case, like, I think this is a really, really good pickup that originally I was kind of out on. Like, I didn't really follow hallzerk's career that much, but I was like, okay, this is kind of like a weird pickup. But now that I'm seeing a little bit of the results, but also thinking a bit more about the role distribution within the team, I think it does make a lot of sense. It's not like you're not getting a star-studded opera, obviously, but in a way, for complexity, that's almost a good thing because they don't have to change up their strategy that much. They really just keep a lot of the things the same, but then just plug in a more stable piece, like you guys were saying.
Yeah, if they'd gone for like a guy like Waro 2K, which is like another name I saw suggested around, like the problem there is that you get a guy that's like super fucking like, I don't know exactly his play style, but he seems like a pretty aggressive guy. So that just combined with like whatever like culture difference and like personality difference and language difference there would be, like it would feel so much more like there's like so much trying to change within the team. It would be hard to feel just as comfortable. And so with hallzerk, it'll be good because I imagine he's still a guy that's like fairly active on the map, like on T side. Like Johnny's not someone that's like, I don't want my opera to do shit on T side, right? Like I don't want him. I just want him to sit back and hold angles. Like if the opera wants to do something, for the most part, the opera can do whatever the fuck he wants on JT's team because that's how it should usually be on like any team pretty much. So like it's still gonna help JT a lot more if he has an opera that's consistently like saying, hey, I want to do this, that type of thing.
And then Waro will be in market, and he'll be like, "Hey JT, I'd really like to swat some flies right now."
Oh my god, that yeah.
It's actually interesting you brought up that note about the T side, CT side, like that they had to adapt their T side and they couldn't really do it on the CT side because. So I think I can say this now that the changes actually happened. But one of the things that they had to do when Junior was on the team was like you might have noticed that Fang's performance dropped off from like how well he used to play at the start of last year, and then you kind of just saw him individually fall off a cliff a little bit. So part of the reason for that is actually because his CT positions had to be swapped. Basically, him and JT traded a bunch of positions because Junior essentially couldn't support Fang the way that he should have been. Both in like holding angles or like flashing and doing it like intuitively without being told that he has to do it, like based on reactions that are happening on the map. So JT essentially had to take some of Fang's positions and micromanage Junior in some of those situations and like tell him that, oh, you have to like do this now or like let's do this, blah blah. Whereas like so Fang was playing in positions he was less comfortable with because essentially he couldn't micro Junior and like while trying to individually focus on some of the plays he had to make. So now that they have hallzerk back there, you can like Fang's performance has gone up as well. Like even in the matches they played before Blast and the matches they've played here, you can see there's already a difference in his stats alone. But also like if you've been watching the matches they've played, like he individually is playing a lot better. His like own focus on the game is back. So I think like it's not just the fact that hallzerk is coming in as like a more stable opper, it's that he can do the stuff that he should be to be able to support the rest of the riflers on the team as well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it became a secret anymore that Junior sometimes made it very difficult to run structured CS in the way that was a little bit more on the fly and intuitive than you would have wanted. But with hallzerk, the guy just seems to be in the right place at the right time more often, and he doesn't put himself in positions where he's just really exposed or basic like. And I will say, from what I saw, he didn't blow me away in terms of his individual performance, but it didn't really feel like he was missing too many of the gimme shots, which I kind of sometimes would wince or cringe because sometimes Junior would just kind of miss them, and I'm like, oh, like why'd that happen, you know? But I'll say that right now with this complexity lineup, it feels like that was sort of that. Everything going on with Junior was sort of haunting them, and they really kind of had to keep pushing that away or like trying to just despite how negatively Junior was affecting that team is, if I'm just being completely honest, they tried their best to put it like to get through it, but after a while they stopped believing in themselves, with Grim saying that stuff about like anybody would be embarrassed to lose us. Like how could like saying that is just like the most, you've lost so much faith in your team. Like I feel like even when teams like with Stewie were down in the dumps, he would never admit that, he would never say anything that obvious where it's like, yo, you would be embarrassed to lose to Stewie 2K. Like nobody would. That's so
it's the reverse Nip 87-0 effect. It's when you're 0-87, you don't want to give the team it's gonna give
team that breaks the record, the losing record. Yeah, that's how Grim was phrasing it, and I think that in the what made me immediately excited for this team, which I'm surprised we haven't really touched just yet, is that they beat NaVi in a map. Yep. They took them down, and their T side was really good.
NaVi was no simple.
True.
As a clarifier.
That's true, but that team ended up winning the group, so they were no joke. They're still no joke, even in the rematch was not pretty for complexity. Yeah. I'm not gonna get into that one. They couldn't get anything done, but for the first map,
just ignore that, please. Just go back to the first.
Actually,
for the sake of my point, please ignore that.
They played pretty well versus Liquid.
Yes,
as well,
that's what I was gonna say too. Yeah. For the first basically 3 halves of Counter-Strike that this complexity team showed at Blast, they were great. They looked like they were one of the teams that was very refreshed after the break. They looked very warmed up. And I'll say that actually one guy that really impressed me in the NaVi series was Grim. Grim was winning so many fights against everybody on NaVi. And even though I'd say statistically I don't think he went crazy. Okay, he went 21 and he went 21 and 14, and he had a 1.38 rating, but he had 14 headshots of those 21 kills. I just need to like remind people how much we used to fawn over Grim for his aim. That's what it looked like when I was watching him against NaVi in this one. So the way he was getting into bomb sites as the second man in behind JT, just trade, and then he'd kill the next guy on top of that, and then he would win a clutch. Like, he was getting quite a few multi-frags, which pretty much were willing rounds into existence for this complexity side. So even though I don't know if I would say the structure of complexity on that T side was phenomenal, they won maybe 2 or 3 clutches, if I remember off the top. Like, maybe like 1 or 2 1v somethings, 1v1, 1v2s, but they definitely won a 2v3 at one point. And Fang actually had this moment where he had a 1v4, and he actually got 3 of the kills and barely missed the headshot on the last guy too. Like, these guys were in really top form for this game, and that made me really excited, because it felt like, based off of everything you said with like the junior and how they had to micro him and they had to think more and they couldn't focus on their own game, that pressure is relieved with hallzerk now, and they're just focusing on themselves, and we're starting to see this resurgence in some of these young individuals that we were so excited about when this roster was being put together.
You can still see some of the cracks as they had in the previous team in some situations. Like the Liquid game, they honestly should have closed out and won.
Yes. Yeah,
but I think they were up like 13-9 and they lost to 1v3, and then they got to 14-10, and then they lost, I think, another like
2v4.
Yeah, 2v4 or something like that. Yeah, exactly. So like those are the kind of rounds that you would see the old roster lose as well, and it's just like, it's funny because when that old roster first started out, it was pretty similar. Like, even though Junior wasn't performing super well, like they would get really close versus some of the good teams, but then they'd even get to like 14 or 15 first, and then they would just lose because they'd lose like 1 or 2 late round clutches. And that kind of happened in that Liquid game. But I think like overall the way the team was playing gives me more confidence in them going forward. It just kind of sucks for them because they honestly could have just beaten Liquid in that match.
Yeah, they could have secured top 2 in their group.
Avoided the NaVi rematch. That would have been nice, just for the history books. No, I think if you think about like how this team used to be, like the narratives of these players when Complexity picked this squad up, if you remember, and assembled this squad, was like, JT, he's been around for a long time, but he's good at like creating a system and imparting that. Like, he seems like a solid systems-based IGL. And I mean, people were talking about his T side specifically, in especially a point where like the CT meta was just rising up and being this like nefarious mastermind or something, like this big final boss you have to defeat on T side every single time. Well, this was a guy that you could say maybe he's got a good chance to do it. And like the stock wasn't bad. Like Grim was like, okay, he's fresh off his stint from Liquid, but we know that he can be a star player if he's given his roles. And we know from interviews and behind the scenes that like there's a lot of weird stuff was happening on the Liquid roster that made Grim not really able to do his thing as much as he would like. Now we get to the point where like this roster's assembled. It looks like this would be where the stock would continue to rise. But unfortunately, due to, the junior effect, if we want to call it that, like that wasn't really happening, right? And there was some reinvention that happened. But if you think about like some of the narratives or some of the fan opinions or even maybe some of the caster and pundit opinions, it was like, well, is JT really that good? Was he, or did he fall off or something because now he can't make the system work? And were Grim and Fang really the next NA hope? Like, it was really hard to see the value still preserved, I think, in a lot of these, like Note was talking about how they would still make it to 14, 15 rounds and show flashes of brilliance. But like, it was hard to know that if that was a consistent thing or if it was always just going to be beneath the cracks. And it's still early days and there are some asterisks about the NaVi game, but the fact that they were able to be competitive in those opening rounds definitely makes you feel like, well, this team clearly shows the potential that they have. If they can activate it, if this can continue to be a raising of the stock, then this Complexity lineup could actually be like the first proper second best NA team, obviously behind Liquid, that we've seen since forever, really. I'm trying to cast my mind back to like the NRG/EG days with them and Liquid working in that summer of I think it was 2019. Like that's sort of the territory we're getting back to. Not that those heights of placements for the NA rosters, but the fact that we can have 2 legitimately good NA rosters operating at the same time. And that would be really nice.
All it took for that was to add an EU player.
Yeah, for both cases. So.
Do you see Complexity making it through this gauntlet? Like, I doubt they beat FaZe, obviously, in the next round, but do you see them maybe winning in the last chance bracket and qualifying for the finals?
It really depends on their opponents, but I feel like this roster...
They first got OG.
So they have OG and then FaZe.
It's hard to... Gauntlet. It's hard to take the OG case because like they're both really not really new, I guess, but like the OG case is kind of new, and so that's like a real weird one. I saw some people saying that the OG guys were like heavy favorites or something. And I don't think that's necessarily true. Really depends on what they took away from the games in the first say it right, and we can say the same about OG to that extent. Like, did they drill down and try to figure out what went wrong, how they can operate better? But I think they have a really good chance at taking the OG game. The FaZe game, not so much, but the OG game definitely. Like, this is maybe 60-40 in one team's favor, and I don't know who to call it for, but otherwise...
I don't know. Dexter's been playing really well, though.
Here's my take on this, right? So I'm looking at this bracket, and I don't fucking understand it at all, so I'm going to say Complexity makes it through, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
It is a bit of an interesting format.
I did want to talk about the format at some point, because
it's the same format as the groups, the last groups.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a little awky. It's a little freaky.
It's just not a good format for anything, really. Like, it's not good for viewers. It's not intuitive to look at. It's also like... it's the entire first round is just seeding matches essentially, but all the teams come in seeded as it is. Like, you seed the initial teams, but then these best of one seeding matches essentially ruin the second bracket. So it's just like you're essentially seeding teams properly, and then you're letting them fuck it up. So I don't know. I'm not like, if these were best of 3 matches and you just played it like a regular group and you had them qualify for a second bracket somehow, and then not have a last chance one. Like, there's so many better solutions than having this weird ass gauntlet. Like,
so you have to take into account that these partner teams want high variance games so they can win against each other and stack HLTV points, because Complexity is probably the happiest team right now because they jumped up 15 spots in the HLTV rankings for beating a NaVi without Simple in a BO1. Like, that's kind of a best case scenario for the team and what they would want to get out of this group stage. But I think I said my piece on the last one. I think that this is so weird now because, like, G2 big for last place is such it's so whack.
It's insane that G2 somehow managed to be the most forgettable team of that group.
That is kind of true.
They were okay. Well, let's do this. I want to talk about G2, but do we have any final thoughts on Complexity here? I think we all can agree they're better. It's just like how much better are we going to see this team? I'll put it like this: in the remaining tournaments of this year, is this team gonna make a playoff berth?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh yeah, that should definitely happen. The thing with this new Complexity, the absolute, if everything goes to plan, everything goes right, and maybe you get a little bit lucky with how other teams perform, this team could peak at like top 12 or something, which is still a huge improvement compared to what you're seeing right now. Like,
top 12.
Think about how weak the whole lineup is from like 3 to 20 at this point, and how uncertain everything is because of all the roster moves. If some of this stuff doesn't work out for some of these other teams, and again, this is everything going right, and Complexity going up stocks up, like, I don't see why they couldn't be like. There's a lot of teams that look more shambolic to me in that situation, in some of those roster placements near the top 12 mark, that I don't see why it wouldn't be Complexity. People will say, oh, NALOL, but like, I mean, that's true, but also look at all of the other rosters that are also LOL or LUL.
I could see them sneaking into playoffs in EPL.
Could be.
Their group's hard, but like, they have ENCE, Heroic, Astralis, Maus, Complexity, Heat. I could see them grabbing maybe a third spot over like an Astralis or a Maus.
Oh, especially recently, yeah. If you take into account recent form.
Wow, I think
this is making me think of like all my Complexity takes at the start of the year. Just thinking about how much if someone really wanted to, they could just go back and make like a fucking just like a montage of me hyping up Complexity at the start of the year, and then just.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit hesitant, but I'm just going to go Homer. Of course, they're going to make a playoff stage at some point of this year.
Okay.
No doubt.
Okay. Wait, what was your wowing for, Alex?
Well, when I wowed when Pronogo said they could hit 12th in the rankings.
Yeah, but who is 12th right now?
Wow.
I don't know about that.
That's really high. I think
the 12th right now is ENCE.
I definitely think they can hit. I definitely think they can make it top 20. I'll say that. I think they can hit top 20, but
yeah, I think they can make top 20.
Dude, like, if Mouse can be number 5, then Complexity can be like top 15. That's all I'm saying.
If Astralis can be number 4 and then lose to Aurora and Los Pollos Hermanos or whatever the fuck, then yeah, they can do wonders, dude. You haven't seen shit yet.
Honestly, if we're using like that kind of logic, if Mouse are 5, Complexity could be 4. Like that's that's the most fraudulent number 5 of all time.
Anything is possible. Just gotta put.
That's really what it is.
That's what I'm trying to say about the fact that like you look at the rankings right now, they don't even make sense. So
no, they don't. They are
this
so
is probably one of the weirdest ranking updates in a while. Yeah, like combined with the fact that we were on a player break and then
I didn't even
so
know
many
Mouse
teams
was number 5. What the fuck?
Yes, yeah. Well, they made
the entire year.
They made semis in Cologne, and then every other team made changes. So like, it was a 1-month break where tournament results basically expired. Like the majors results are not considered in form ranking anymore. You had teams make changes, and then you had like teams like Astralis and Mouse making playoffs to Cologne. So it's just like the ranking is kind of fucked right now.
Actually, I know we're supposed to be moving to G2, but can we talk a little bit about FaZe being swapped with NaVi in the ranking and how we feel about that?
Well, since we're on the topic of the ranking, I guess we could make a little point on that. It is very like why is this there? I know Striker tried going to Twitter to try to defend this and the logic behind it. Yeah. I get that the HLTV ranking, like, you know, it drops something and then it uses performances from other tournaments, and then like I think the Blast Spring Finals kind of, like, some people sort of forget about how that happened and how NaVi actually did beat FaZe and they did win that whole thing. And I don't really expect HLTV's ranking system to have too much more nuance to actually say, like, this is a different type of tournament than Cologne, because they kind of are S-tier tournaments at the end of the day. So it's not like it's crazy to me. I didn't expect this to happen, but when you actually look at the points, they're 7 points apart in terms of how they put these things together. It's weird. I don't think there's any way that any ranking system should put NaVi better than FaZe right now in any case, but you know, with certain...
It's funny because I think if FaZe hadn't played the Rubet Cup, they would still be number 1.
See, that's like, even
literally stranger. Like this weird online tournament kind of fucked them, but like it shouldn't be like that, but just because the ranking is based purely on like point calculations with like what tournaments you take part in and who you beat, like it is just kind of how it unfolded. But you're right, like there's no way that NaVi should be above FaZe, and I don't think anyone from NaVi would agree with that either. Right. Obviously Simple is memeing about it on Twitter, but like
he took a break and they got number 1, so he was like, hell yeah. That's the other thing too, is that there's no like penalty.
Maybe I should take more breaks.
There's no penalty for, I mean, not that there necessarily should be, but it's like there's no consideration that like right now NaVi doesn't even have their star player. Obviously that's a temporary thing, but there's that they're playing live games without their star player, and normally when you make a roster move, obviously you lose some points, but like there's a point where it's like, are they gaining points for doing that? Was the event even calculated yet, or like is it factored in? Because the ranking.
The event's calculated. Blast is calculated at the end for achievements, but I think form counts for matchups.
Yeah. If FaZe beat Heroic in that BO1, they probably would be number 1. I think that would have made the difference.
Well, that's what Striker said, and then he tried to be like, I was only pretending to make a ridiculous point. Actually, that was
the problem is because Heroic made a change, they were also lower on the ranking than they typically would be, so it probably counted as like losing to a substantially lower ranked team or whatever. Because I think they were ranked 15th or something.
You see how deep 14th. We had to go, how many layers of analysis we had to do to just try to explain this?
It is an unreasonable like change, obviously, but there's also nothing that like anybody can really do about it, which kind of sucks. Like, it doesn't make sense, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to defend that.
Okay, let's get into G2. They, like Pronogo said, they were probably the most forgettable team of the groups in a lot of ways.
So forgettable that was actually Mix's point and you forgot, so...
Oh, really? That Mix's point, my bad. Okay,
I'll take credit.
So Mix's... Okay, well, off of what Mix said, they were a very forgettable team, and honestly, I mean, I saw some of the NaVi G2 game, and my initial impressions are that their CT side looks good, but their T sides are just horrible. I don't
So
like,
the
but
same old as always.
yeah, but like, so nothing's actually changed at all, right? No, actually, I think they're something. One observation I had in that game, I'll kick it off, is that sometimes I kind of feel like HooXi doesn't maybe calm fast enough.
Yep.
If you watch how sometimes the way that people around HooXi should be reacting to information to me doesn't seem correct. I think the most obvious example that I wrote down right when I saw it was on the pistol round of the very first half against NaVi, where HooXi dies to this guy that was okay. So it was like a B hit from NaVi on Mirage. And this guy got close to window. I think it was Bit. He got close to window, like pushed all the way through sight, killed HooXi, and then Nico somehow thought he could get out of market, even though Bit was holding the tripwire angle there. Just was gonna kill anybody that just walked out. And Nico didn't even have proper crosshair placement, but like HooXi should have relayed the message to him that no, Bit is close right on you right now. Like he's close market, right? And yet Nico just felt shocked, and I was like. In that moment, I started trying to look out for more cases of this happening, and there were a couple times where, and it's probably a little bit of confirmation bias, but I started noticing just like I don't know if everybody is like aware of what HooXi is always feeling, like hearing or seeing, and I think that's something that I guess I didn't really even consider this until I watched the match, but then I started thinking, oh, HooXi, this is the first time he's playing in English, so I think this is probably a little bit difficult for him.
It's also just like there just seems like there's a lot of hesitation at certain points. Like I'm not sure if you can bring up a YouTube clip or not, Pernogo, but
I could probably wrangle something up. What you got?
Yeah, so there is this clip that I think somebody linked in our news chat, and it's just like you can just see that there's not a good amount of coordination between G2 right now. Like there's basically this clip, like they basically take all of ESEA, they have smokes down, and then HooXi just kind of just sits Tetris with the bomb for the entire round. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? He just doesn't move. And it's just like
I can't.
Who's making the call here? What is the call here? It just seems really awkward and disjointed. And I don't know. I don't know if this is something that is just based on nobody calming that they.
No, this is really bad. This is just really bad.
This is really bad.
Yeah. This is something I kind of like in the moments that. So G2, to their credit, made this game very close, despite the fact that I think on the T side here they got maybe like 3 or 4 opening kills. Like they barely got any. So that should have probably put them in the dirt right there. But there were moments also kind of where they have to convert around where it just was like sloppy, and this is the best possible example of that. And I think, God, like this is making me eat my words a little bit on. I'll say this. I still stand by the JKS move. I think JKS is a really solid piece. I think he's better than Jax. I think that they're even using him on both T and CT side in positions that make sense for him already. But like I also said this thing about like I think HooXi's style should work for G2 better than it was going to work for Alex. But the last point in all of this is that HooXi is so much worse individually than Alex. He's even so much worse than MSL. He is probably, in terms of individual ability, one of the worst players in Tier 1 Counter-Strike at present.
Who would you take as a player? Okay, so just ignoring their calling, right? As an individual player, are you going with HooXi or Zeus?
That's a really rough question.
That's a hard
question. Have never been asked. No, it's like equal. It's really just. I mean, I think maybe.
Well, HooXi doesn't have a clip where he's on like 10 HP and like KZing down a fucking ladder really fast.
That is probably one of the GOAT moves of Zeus's lifetime.
That is actually an incredible clip.
My other favorite Zeus clip was when he like double entried solo on Inferno and like a major with a UMP. On, like, Inferno Beast. Just like, imagine on B site and you're just getting double entry by HooXi or Zeus. Like you're just like, holy fuck, our site hold is so bad.
I see right now. I think I would take Zeus, and that is the biggest indictment on HooXi's entire career is that I don't think HooXi wins that.
Sad days.
Yeah. So this is going to be a talking point into and the worst thing is that, I mean, of course HooXi has to like feed fuel to this fire of just that he says, I don't think I even have to touch my mouse and we should win for whatever.
Yeah, he's like, I don't need to frag for 6 months. What was it? Like, we would still win trophies or whatever. Like,
yeah,
mate.
See, I was gonna say like,
wait, maybe that's why he didn't move from Tetris in that clip, because he was like, I don't even have to touch my mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, like, if I sit here for at least 5 seconds, the bomb automatically drops. So you guys can come and get it. I can literally just call AFK and it'll be like StarCraft or something, dude.
So I was gonna say like, I'm not even sold on like HooXi yet, but I'm not like even as sold on JKS as I feel like most people are.
Okay, why is that?
I just feel like especially these first 2 matches where he seemed kind of rough. I don't know, like the only thing we've seen from him in the past like year and a half that was good was like that stand-in phase on phase. Like complexity, he just really struggled. It felt like he could never get comfortable in a team like this where, you know, there's like other kind of stars that he has to work around with, you know, fucking Nico and Monacy and even Hunter to an extent. And it's like, obviously, I'm sure they're going to try to give him his freedom, but it's still just not the same as when you're playing in like 100 Thieves and your teammates are like Liaz and Gratisfaction, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I'm still just not sold on JKS like actually performing and being like a solid fit in this team. We'll see how it goes and like kind of if he gets more comfortable, if HooXi gets more comfortable, because this was like their first event playing together. So obviously sometimes things can take a bit to click, but I'm still not like 100% sold on it at all.
Yeah, he's also his first time, right? Like his first time with this particular lineup with any of these players, to my knowledge, like you were saying, Mick. So it's like it's tough to expect a lot. Yeah. So what were you about to say, Mike?
I'll sell you JKS for Jax though. I'll sell you it in that context, okay? Because even though even though JKS was severely overrated off of what he did at Katowice,
yes.
he definitely did not do what Jax did, which is ever since the PGL major, Jax had 13 events. He went positive in 1. He went positive KD 1 time. JKS will go positive in more than 1 out of 13 events. You can book that. I guarantee.
I don't mind removing Jax. I'm just not sure if JKS was like JKS to me just seemed like the obvious big name free agent pickup. Let's get him. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not sure if that was really
if it was warranted, right? Like, why is he a big name? Here's the other thing, is that, like, people keep talking about the Katowice run, and they're, like, not sure whether he was overrated from it or underrated from it, or what was going on, what the nuances were, because obviously it's a different IGL, different system. He's subbing in for different players at different points in the event, and it's very impressive that they managed to win with him. And, you know, it was kind of a close final, even though it was a 3-0, if people remember. There's, like, the immortal Mirage game that just kept going on and all that other stuff. Very exciting scenes. It sticks in people's minds. I think the thing about JKS is that I didn't get any of the communication behind the signing, what G2 want to do with him. Because JKS clearly can be a versatile player, but it needs to be done in the way where it's like a collaboration between him and the rest of the system, as shown by Katowice with FaZe. And if you're going to say that, like, okay, he showed very different kinds of form, and he was able to do different kinds of things on the FaZe lineup compared to his previous teams, that's true. But what are you going to do? What is his role in here? Because, like, that's a problem, is that normally people have more set roles. You kind of know what their tendencies are. You kind of know what they like to do, especially if they're an opper, but also if they're just like a rifler, are they going to be more on the supportive side? What is JKS's role here? Because he can do many things, theoretically, at a reasonably high level, we kind of need to know what G2's vision is, and what HooXi's vision is for him, and what Xdaz's vision is for him, and I have no idea what they want to do with this guy.
Yeah, because it feels similar to, like, Complexity almost for me, right? Because, like, when he joined Complexity, he was replacing, I think there might have been like a stand-in phase or something, but he replaced Obo pretty much, right? And Obo on Complexity had like a lot of the bitch roles, like a lot of like the bitch lurking roles, like, you know, that type of shit, right?
You remember the hot tub video, Mix? You remember Jason Lake saying, "I love when a plan comes together"? I don't think it was a hot tub; it was like a pool or something. But he was saying, like, the narrative around that was JKS can slot in perfectly and is just an upgrade. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
And it's just not the same, because you just don't have the same amount of freedom that he had on 100 season. Like, I don't know, it just felt like it didn't really work that well. And then it feels like on G2, it's almost like a similar thing. It's like, we're taking out our guy that plays like all the bitch roles and fills for us and Jax, and then we're gonna put in JKS here. It's gonna be fucking sick, because JKS is fucking sick. and it's gonna work out, and we're gonna win everything. And then he just kind of struggles, and it's like,
did JKS just take Jack's positions though?
I don't know.
I don't think it's a 1-to-1.
I don't think it's
no, but it's still like I'm still just saying, like, in terms of like how you're adding a player and like replacing them, just in terms of the player that you removed and the player that you added, that's still fucking up. Like, not fucking up necessarily, but it's still very much like changing the DNA of the team.
Yeah.
And it didn't really work for complexity when they did it with JKS, and I'm still not sold on it with G2.
My problem isn't with the JKS edition. I think it's just I don't know how like you were explaining about how he's gonna plug into Xtaz's vision and HooXi's vision.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the bigger problem for me. Like I think JKS could fit this team. I just don't know if HooXi's the right person to fit him into it. Like I don't really have a belief in him as an IGL yet.
JKS could be the puzzle piece, but G2 need maybe a different monkey to start slamming it into the hole. Is that what you're trying to say, or what's going on?
Sure, let's go with that.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. The HooXi thing is really
Alex
weird.
Alex is gonna say something.
Go ahead.
Well, I kind of forgot what I was going to say before that, but I think the thing is that with HooXi right now, he hasn't really actually proven that he can succeed with every roster. Like he kind of had a really rough Copenhagen Flames, I think a couple years ago, and then he got this new version Copenhagen Flames, and it almost probably sort like the loose style that they played, I'll say, was supported by the fact that they actually weirdly had some very strong individuals, even though those guys didn't have that much experience. Like Zyphon found a lot for his role. Nico Dawes carried a lot of CT sides. Yabi was good. Roy suddenly became a star from who God knows, like, how is that even possible? As an entry player, which is not even what he did back on Mad Lions. Like,
hey, he was a star before Mad Lions. I was looking at that guy before Mad Lions, and I'm just saying.
Really?
He was
on what team? Yeah. What team was he on? Is it Tricked? Or was it?
I don't even think it was Tricks. I couldn't tell you what the team was. All I know was I saw this guy on the top of the HLTV stats, and I looked at his demos, and he was like holding W and just wrecking people. And I was like, I love this guy.
Okay, so he kind of went from W holder to Mad Lions, like a support player, back to a W. Okay,
yeah.
So he actually got to fit his natural role again. That's good.
That
for
makes
Roy,
sense.
At least.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But I think. In the moments before it, I really did look at, like, when I was thinking myself, who would I rather have for G2, I did go back at a handful of demos for Fnatic and for looking at Alex, and I looked at the HooXi stuff for Copenhagen Flames, and I just liked the looseness and kind of the freedom and how the big picture would come together very often for Copenhagen Flames, because a solo individual would kind of understand the timings, and they would kind of be able to pinch onto a bomb site very effectively without. And I in a way, I think I probably thought HooXi should be responsible for some of this, and maybe I gave him more credit in terms of microing individuals for his team, but the thing is that I don't think he's going to do, even if he was microing these guys, he's not going to be able to do that as well for G2 when what I've already identified is that he's having trouble speaking English at a good enough rate, or just like instantly coming up with the ideas so that he can tell XYZ player, pinch with us now. Like, I don't know if that's there.
Well, it's the immortal Yanko point where about like a good call at the wrong time is horrible, because people will know that HooXi, like, he's went on podcasts and talk shows before, like he seems to be able to speak English totally fine, but in the moment when your brain is trained to speak a different language in order to communicate the essence of whatever you're trying to say so that your team can be successful at Counter-Strike, it's a very different experience trying to do that in a language that maybe you speak for PR reasons, for promotional things, and for like conversations with, you know, not necessarily your best mates that you're working on the team with in your past, but just other people in the industry. That's different. Now your whole life is in English, and talking with your fellow countrymen, your fellow teammen rather, all your teammates, that's also in English too. And so that is going to take a little bit of time.
Okay. So let's just sum it up. Let's sum it all up for G2 right now. How about we give 3 separate grades, each of us. We'll do this. So Mix, how would you grade the HooXi move for G2? For Alexi B. Let's go 1 for 1. Let's go 1 for 1, and then you're gonna make a big picture grade also. So HooXi Mix, what do you think?
C+.
Letter. Okay, C+. Pronogo, what would you give the HooXi move?
D.
Oof. Okay. No, what would you give it?
I'd also give it a C+, I'd say.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a C. I'll give it a C. Actually, you know what? After what I saw in those first games, C minus now.
The games don't even really like he would have had to, his whole roster would have had to really shock the world and 16-1 people if I was going to change the grade. I still would have had
let me put one stat out there that makes me give this a C minus, maybe even D plus. G2 played the Blast Fall groups. Evil Geniuses played the Blast Fall groups. Which team has the better T-side win rate right now? It's Evil Geniuses. It's EG. G2 has the worst with 22% win rate on the T side right now. It's abysmal. It is horrible. So that's why.
Yeah, I'll downgrade to a C. You convinced me.
Yeah, that number is really hard to go against, huh?
EG with a stand-in.
Yes.
Mind you.
Yep, EG with a stand-in playing against FaZe, by the way, and they still were able to get a better T-side round win percentage. Okay, then let's do the JKS move now. I'll go first since I was last time. I'll give the JKS move a solid B. I'll do a B. Okay, let's go backwards. So that's Pronogo? Was that Pronogo?
No, it's Note next.
Okay, no.
I was also gonna say B, so yeah, I'll stick with the B.
I'll say B plus just because it seems like there's promise there. It can upgrade into an A if he works hard. You know, this roster move can do well.
Okay, Mix.
B minus.
Yeah, you had to be lower because you were. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now we'll do overall rating. I'll just pick someone to rank. Pronogo, what's your overall rating for the G2 moves?
Meh. C, I guess, average.
So C is like a passing grade. So you would give them a pass for what they did. Like,
oh well, if you're trying to say that like relative to the org and considering the context of what this is supposed to be, no, this is like in the 30s out of 100 or something. But like,
oh my god,
just in terms of like,
wait, is this a fail? Are you
I'm failing G2 just on the roster move. I didn't need to see games for this. I knew this wasn't going to work out.
This is 2 BO1s that just happened.
Yeah, I didn't even need to watch those to know this though. Like you have to understand, like HooXi is not. This is not a Munacy. HooXi is an older guy compared to Munacy, especially. He's proven himself in the sense that like you said, he had rough times, rough stints, and then the Copenhagen Flames roster came to fruition, which was a bunch of people who didn't really shock the world until they did, right? It wasn't like they had a pre-existing reputation to uphold or some sort of experience where you could count on them and say that you can take that to the bank. So HooXi has this unproven roster and he finds success in 2 majors back-to-back. Props to him. But like, I would never even think to look at this guy to lead G2. I know people were saying his leadership style could theoretically fit them, but I'm not going to pick this guy. Like, you would need to at least be like in the same ballpark of Alexi B's fragging in order for me to consider that. And that's not to say that like fragging is all that matters in an IGL, obviously. It's just that if you're not approaching that, even in a team that is demonstrably going up against lesser competition most time, how am I supposed to expect you to do well against like NaVi and FaZe? You know what I mean? And that's just purely in terms of production. Like, yes, we have a more star-studded roster. Theoretically, they can take up more of that slack. But you still need to be, I need to be able to rely on my IGL, who is going to be calling, and a lot of that is based on confidence and reads and intuition. I need to know that he can also click ahead if it appears on his screen, at least to some degree of consistency. And I also need to know that he's dealt with personalities that are completely different in a language that is completely different than what he's normally had. So no, Alex would have been way better. Alexi B keeping him would have been way better. I would not have failed either of those moves. This one's an F.
Okay.
For context, I was giving it a C because, like, if you just want G2 to be a middle of the pack, like top 15 team, this is great. Great job, Carlos. But no, this is supposed to be the number 1 team in the world. Nobody remembers that, but the amount of money that they put in, this is supposed to be a contender for number 1, and this is not it.
True.
No, that's true. That's true. No.
Do you all have an I grade in the US? Do you know what that is?
Incomplete.
Yeah.
Yes.
Incomplete.
Yeah, I would give them an I, honestly.
Yeah, you didn't even do the work.
They've only played 2 BO1s. They haven't done the work yet. Like, HooXi is just entirely incomplete in this roster at the moment. I think I would have to see more matches from them to give like a more definitive.
Of course. We've only seen 2 BO1s.
Yeah, I think it's hard to judge right now, but right now, like Pernogo said, I didn't like the move of adding HooXi before it even happened. I was like, this is a very weird, like, I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to add an IGL to G2, HooXi was not the one out of the options you could possibly have.
Yep.
So until I see something better from them, they're incomplete for me. Like they're borderline failing, but they haven't like they have the chance to do some work and work their way up to C+ right now.
They can redo the homework that they missed throughout the semester.
Yep. Extra credit. They can stay after class.
Exactly.
They can smack the erasers and dust the windows and stuff.
Yeah, they can give chocolates to the teacher in office hours. Okay. Mix. What would you do give the overall grade to be?
I'd give it a C+. I get what they were trying to do with both moves, but I feel like overall it's just not very inspiring.
That's glowing praise compared to the bottom half of the panel. So they are very appreciative of your contribution, Mix.
Like I get what you guys are going for, but I'm not sure that it's gonna work out how you expect it.
I actually think that the best argument for it being kind of a lower grade, because I give it a C because I think of C in like the most typical sense of like it passed because to me they just needed to do something. I was not like Twist said in that interview, I wish teams stayed together longer and dude, I didn't want to see I did not want to see any more of that roster.
I get what he's saying with that, but I also don't agree with it as much as he probably is like to it, where it's like I don't know. I feel like at a certain point the chemistry just isn't there. It's like you're just not gonna reach that level. Like it's just how it is.
Twist is such a weird character to say that because usually the guy that says that is like the shitty bottom fragger support player that's always like, we should have just stuck it out. If we stuck it out, we would have figured out the chemistry. Like it's like never really true.
Sanji, Virtus Pro should not have made changes.
Exactly.
The guy's got like 12 kills a game, and he's like, we should have just stuck with it and see like.
We could have done so much more. We were still figuring it out. Like
think of all the ops I dropped you. Come on, dude. Think of the memories.
Yeah, we were progressing so much with our team play, and
yeah, exactly. Those like
our communication was getting a lot better, and I felt like I was really improving.
I love
it's
that.
Just like there were so many other options though. Like imagine if they added Alex, could be a lot better. Obviously, I think Tabson is apparently just never
it was a meme.
He owns it was a meme, but like because he owns part of Big, like obviously he's not gonna just leave. But like Tabson would be a banging fucking move for that team. Obviously.
I'm almost ready to put Tabson as like if you have any option in the world, it's almost like who would you want, and like Kerrigan's number one, and Tabson is probably right there, right?
Yeah,
like, you'd be hard pressed to find an actual IGL that delivers in more ways than Tabson does. But I will say that I almost feel like if it were Tabson, there might have been like too much structure coming from him, but like I think Tabson actually probably puts more structure in because he knows he's playing with certain people as opposed to like, if Tabson had Nico, I think he would call a slightly different style.
Also, what if they had Magus? That's my like hypothetical.
Magus as an IGL.
Have him IGL.
Oh my god! Actually, that would be pretty god tier because he plays a lot of those spots that they would need too. Yeah, that's there's not many.
That's less of a risk than HooXi, so.
Actually less of a risk. That's the thing.
I was waiting for Snappy to be touted. I was waiting for like, if you're going to think about rosters that are obviously currently ranked above them or whatever, but considering like the prestige of the org and the fact that G2 has Nico and Hunter and m0NESY, like these sort of star trio that you're ready to, you're salivating just hearing that if you're an IGL and you want to use
prestige of the org that hasn't won a title in 4 years though. Like,
well, prestige is more like the amount of money.
I know what you mean, but I'm just like, God damn, how are you guys not going to win a title for 4 years with the amount of money you spend and the kind of players you have signed? It's just absurd.
Well, at some point, you do have to say management has failed, and I don't know if it's too early on the Xtaz experiment. I feel like, I don't know, like, the whole thing between Xtaz and HooXi when they came over is like, what even happened there? I hope we get some information about that at some point.
Yeah.
Because I would be really curious to know why that particular pairing failed, and I'd also be curious to know, like, I don't know. I haven't gone back and looked at the previous roster or whatever, but I feel like with Xtaz behind them coaching, it doesn't seem to have changed that much. But maybe that's just because I'm associating the changes that were there with the IGL change. Like, it's hard to know when you change both of them. But anyway, the point I was making is just that, like, if you were going to pick up IGLs from teams that are not going to spend as much money as G2, I would have gone for Snappy first. I mean, if we're going to talk about... Somebody brings up HooXi in this argument, I'd be like, no, dude, there's like 4 other teams I would look at before then. And I would include Dexter from Maus. Like, I don't even think he's really that great, but somebody like that who at least has a track record of working with an international roster. You know, give me somebody like that. Give me somebody like that who can at least sneak an IEM Cologne top 4 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, give me something so that I can know that we have a chance to win titles for the first time in 4+ years.
Yeah, and Dexter's kid could even be friends with Monacy, and they'd be able to get along.
Yeah. Dexter's got.
Fuck this! I'm changing my grade. I'm giving the HooXi move an A+.
No, you're not.
Okay, that's
why.
That's unreasonable.
You have to just you have to give us something as to why you would say that.
Because I'm gonna look like a genius when they start winning.
Well,
so unreasonable. That's so unreasonable.
I do think that a lot of people will, off of their initial impressions from this first week of Blast, which is literally just BO1s after a player break.
Yep.
We are making a lot of assumptions and we're jumping to conclusions very quickly. But like that's kind of the point of this.
But we're also basing it on what we saw, not on what we think will happen.
Yeah. And just remember, anything is possible, because just as an aside, I was looking at the rankings again, and I just noticed that not only is Mal's 5th, but Movie Star Riders is 6th.
And they aren't even with their upper. Yeah.
You know what tilts me about this ranking?
Tell me that complexity can't be top 10. They'll be top 5 by the end of the year.
What tilts me the most about that?
I don't know how Movie Star didn't fall off.
Exactly.
I was confused by that too.
I'm not sure how that happened.
Exactly. I mean, when you get the write-ups for the RMR qualifiers and stuff, and it's like, another upset as the top 5 ranked team of the world was kicked out or whatever. It's like, it's fucking mouse sports. What do you mean? Like, it's not really that big of an upset, is it? You can't just say top 5. Like, using that as a way to explain why it's such an upset is just whack. It's so
okay, hold on. I have a question. Do you think that G2 makes it past big in the gauntlet bracket? Like,
oh, no. Actually,
no.
I also don't think they beat them.
Nah, I think Big are just much more complete as a team right now, and think that they kind of, in a way, I feel like they're just going to be better. I think they're just better right now. Like, I think G2, if this match happened in like a month, I think I would probably favor G2. But today, or this match is happening tomorrow, right? Or in 22 hours.
Yes.
So okay, yeah, I think that this. I think Big's better today. So, I
agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we got one more team that made moves, and I saved them for last because I kind of felt like we just have a pretty similar opinion. That's Vitality dropping Masuda. We saw them with Spinks now. They should have probably won their game against Astralis to close out that group. But they didn't. But let's just talk about what we saw so far with the Spinks move. Well, actually, does anybody have anything interesting, or should I just sum this up quickly and then we move on?
I think I'm fine with you summing it up.
I will say I don't think it solves their problems, but I already talked about that on the off angle, so maybe it's not worth regurgitating.
I would say it's looking rough for them because they lost to a team that's lost in 3 open qualifiers now. So.
Okay. Oh, that's an angle.
So based on you know how things actually work, that means Vitality is like
worse than Los Pollos Hermanos.
Yeah. Worse than Gustavo Fring, dude.
I think the change was good for them, to be honest. Yeah. I think I liked seeing them in this group at least.
Yeah. I mean, the way I've been putting this on everything I've been talking on lately is just that. Even though strategically, tactically speaking, there are probably some holes that still need to be filled, or like things that need to be ironed out between Magisk / Dupree and then the French side of things. Putting a significantly better player into basically every position that was occupied by bottom fragger, second worst fragger on the team, because I guess you would say Apex is a worse fragger than Masuda was sometimes, but for them to just get like a player that's probably their second best now out the gates, to just occupy roles that was occupied by the second worst, then it's just an upgrade, and like that's how Counter-Strike works, where if you just put a better player in, you're gonna be better. Like it doesn't need to be the most complex and elegant solution. Sometimes it's just make the right signing and get ROPS for Olafmeister. Like, it's gonna be better, and it was. And then the same thing is here with Spinks for Masuda. It's just flat out better. I can't really see this getting like worse for them, and I would say that right now, like, the boldest thing I can say about this is that Vitality for me are safely a top 5 team. Like, you look at who else is in the top 5, and they're 1 point away from Movistar Riders. They're 2 points away from Maus. And I'm not talking about ranking. I'm talking about literally the way HLTV has ranking points. Yeah. And they are actually just 2 points away from tying Maus. And that Maus run was still, again, the most fraudulent thing ever, whereas Vitality could consistently make it to playoffs now. I'd say. Yes. I'd be shocked if Vitality for the rest of the year doesn't make it to over half of the playoffs in tournaments that they're in. That's like
agreed.
Yeah.
I mean that's something that you can't have insane haterism, even though I like to take contrarian positions. It's not like, okay, I said it wouldn't fix their issues because I think their underlying issues are more team chem and coordination and stuff, and communication, of course, too, because of the whole international move. But I also think that maybe that'll smooth out with time. This Spinks roster is indefinitely an upgrade, right? So, like, inarguably. The one thing is I don't know if they win trophies off of this move, but they definitely look a lot better, poised a lot better to do that now. So
their EPL group is also, like, kind of weak. Like, there's NaVi, obviously, but then you have NiP, Vitality, Fnatic, Spirit, Endpoint. So I think they make playoffs there, too. Like,
they should, yeah.
They're gonna make playoffs there. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Heroic?
Well, we could kind of talk about Heroic winning, plus, like, I mean, they did move Yabi around. I don't think we've said too much about that yet. Okay, well, like, yeah, they won their group. Does anybody want to take the lead on this one for what they saw about them? I mean, they beat FaZe, so
the win against FaZe is actually really, like, I was impressed watching them play because they made FaZe look uncomfortable for the entire map, basically. Like, they weren't letting them get map control. Shush and stuff, and were kind of freaking out. Yabi was like 17 and something in the first half, just kind of owning them.
Yeah.
But FaZe kept trying to grab, like, top bracket control, and they just got pushed back every time. It was like, or if they made it through into our side, they just got owned. And every time that once Heroic was on the T side, like, they made FaZe tuck into the A side so much. Like, there was basically no, like, it was almost like FaZe, I think even Kerrigan said in the interview, actually, like, they couldn't win gun rounds that map. Like, they basically won a couple of ecos and then, like, a few gun rounds, and that was kind of it. Like, they couldn't get much going.
Yeah, that's something I noted too, that actually I didn't actually see that interview with him, but that's basically what I thought about that game, is that when you look back actually at the economy rounds for them, I'm pretty sure T side they won the first 3 rounds, and then every round that FaZe won after that, if you look at that HLTV timeline, it was like like a half buy round, like half buy rounds or worse is where they were actually winning on T, which is just kind of screams of inconsistency, but usually high skill players. And that's basically that's kind of like, in some ways, like, FaZe could probably relax a bit more after the player break than other teams, because there's not really any reason to come in after the player break with that fire. But I mean, that's me making an excuse for them, because otherwise, Heroic played them, tactically speaking, they were just stronger for sure. So anybody else? I mean,
what do you guys think?
What do you guys?
This is just business as usual for Heroic, as far as I'm concerned. They have a couple of matches early in a tournament or in some group stage or something. They take down a big scalp. They, I didn't watch the after game celebration, but I'm sure Cadian had a pop off as usual. And then that's it. Like, then they sort of regress to the mean, turn back into a pumpkin in playoffs, like they did against NaVi in, like, the crucial moment back at the last couple major. It's just like, at what point do you start to say, like, okay, these teams, when they're really put up against the big game, against the big team, that's when they still have yet to prove me. Like, it's kind of crazy because we've been out of the online era for a long time, but Heroic have never really lost their onliner status. If you translate onliner to it doesn't bring everything in the big game, you know what I mean? And I don't know the Yabi move solves that, because he's also an inexperienced kid relative to the rest of the roster, and his own achievements kind of also had the similar syndrome. So I don't know, like, that's just my take, is I don't really think this team is destined for top 4 necessarily, you know what I mean?
Ooh, I was gonna say actually, I think this team is like the most in terms of current HLTV standing. They're probably gonna gain the most. In the near future. They're currently 13th. Like I'll just put them probably like I think they're gonna be I'll say top 6 because you said 6. I'll say they're a top 6 team. I think like the other teams that I would have there are the already 3 teams occupying there, like Cloud9, FaZe, and NaVi. And then I'd probably have Vitality in the top 5, top 6, Heroic in the top 6, and I don't even know who my other top 6 team really is right now.
Probably ENCE, I would say. They look pretty solid despite the fact that they lost Spinks.
Well, I can't really say when they change 2 players right now.
Yeah.
I have enough faith in Snappy and in the rest of the players. The fact that I think you can argue they made an upgrade over their Opper, and obviously they had to like make do with the Spinks loss, but Valde is not a slouch either. So
true, that's true, but I don't think ENCE is gonna get back to the top 5. I don't think they're gonna get back to the top 4.
I just think like Spinks is a really big loss. Like he's like a top 10 player this year so far at the very least, and I think that's really hard to like. That's a really tough kind of person to lose, even if you're replacing them with Valde, who is going to be playing like more fragging roles from what Snappy said. Like he's not going to be playing the same kind of passive play like roles he's been playing recently. I think there was an interview with Snappy. I don't know where. I think it was on HLTV, but he said that like he's going to put him more in the kind of roles that he was in when they played together 4 to 5 years ago.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's going to necessitate some changes for the ENCE camp, but it should. I think, like, it would be really weird if after all was said and done, like, it wasn't a top 10 roster, in my opinion, anyway. I feel like this core and the IGL and the leadership there seems to be really sound, and Snappy's done this with a number of players so far that like he's not on the Kerrigan level, but if you think about like the Snacks stand-in, if you think about like how many other players he's dealt with in an international roster, he's not a million miles away from that status either in terms of like the skill set of the IGL. Also helps that they're both Danish. So
yeah, okay. I think that's there's pretty good coverage of Heroic right there. Let's talk about then who do we still got?
There is NaVi after the fact that they didn't play with Simple. I don't know if we really have any thoughts on them though, because of the fact that
was pretty temporary. I mean, he'll be back.
Yeah.
He was like,
okay. What did you guys think? How about really quickly? What do you guys think of headtrick? Do you guys think he has a promising future?
Well, with the infrastructure of NaVi, with Blade specifically, I think it's really hard to go wrong. But of course, the coach did say, he came out with I think it was an HLTV interview saying, headtrick's not necessarily cut out for this right now. He needs some more time in the oven to sort of grow and develop as a player. But I think this isn't the first time headtrick's gotten some showtime with the main roster, if I'm not mistaken. I think there was a point where
he stepped in for Electronic at some point or something?
There was something like that where he was subbing in for one of the riflers. So, I mean, he must be the preferred sort of like next in line to take the throne, I guess, in terms of not for Simple, but for in general, for like being able to say that, oh, this guy's the next one who could be a bit or a perfecto to some degree or whatever. So.
Okay, I'll give some CIS ops. You lose Monacy, and then you just bring up the next guy.
Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah, considering you can go.
Well, yeah, I'll give context to headtrick because I've been watching him in the Academy League for a while now, and something that needs to be noted is that so there's been 5 seasons of the Academy League. First season, he was actually a substitute for NaVi Jr., where he was actually only playing Vertigo for them, which was kind of weird because he was like their best, like second best player on that map. Like Monacy was their best player in season 1, but then headtrick was like really good, but they only used him on Vertigo because they were doing some 6-man lineup BS. Then I think season 2, moving forward to like season 2, 3, 4, he was basically their No, Monacy was still on season 2, but like he was basically their best player if Monacy wasn't playing for all of those seasons, like by a large margin. Like he was considerably better than everybody else on the team. And then season 5, he actually switched to the op this season because they got rid of, I think, Laddick, who was like, I don't know, he had like I mean, for all you need to know about Laddick is that he looked like a warlock because he tried bleaching his hair, but he messed up. And when you mess up bleaching your hair, you can just like look like your hair is completely fried. And so, like, I mean, that's what he did. That's what he did. That's like if you know hair treatments, like that's where he was at with those things. But yeah, he just started opping this season, and again, he was like by far the best player on the team. So he's not really even an opper by nature, and for him to be just subbing in for Simple right here, it's kind of just fortunate that he just started opping, because if he hadn't, this would have been a bit rougher for him. But like, it shows that he's actually a pretty strong player, because he performed very, very well actually for NaVi in these games. I mean,
yeah. Well, they were still able to come out, you know what I mean? So it worked out for him.
I was here thinking you were gonna like explain what type of opera Laddick was and headtrick replacing him. And then you're like, he looks like a warlock. I'm like, okay. Cool.
Actually, he just is a sorcerer and he casts spells. That's all he does. It's Valor.
Yeah, as a stand-in, he was all right. I mean, like obviously you're replacing Simple, so you're never gonna have the same kind of performance or level as him. But yeah. I think what Blade said in the interview was kind of insightful in the sense that like I do like that Blade is not like he doesn't really bury the lead at all, and he's not trying to like be PR about anything. Like he is just very honest and saying that he like his decisions in game were basically like not up to level yet. He like doesn't react the way you are supposed to at a pro level, but that comes with experience. So I think like it is good. Like I do like the way NaVi has their system set up so that if they ever do need a stand-in, there's always like one person who's kind of like handpicked out of the junior lineup to kind of step in if they ever need it. Like it was bit before, obviously. So I think like having that on the back burner is kind of helpful for them. But I don't know. I don't know how well. I don't know how many opportunities he's gonna have to stand in unless like Simple takes a longer break in the future or something like that. But I don't see like any of the other players really stepping back right now.
Yeah, but yeah, I guess you never really know. Like, it's just something could happen and someone might leave. Like, he would be a really great slot for, like I wouldn't say Perfecto. Actually, I would say, what role would he play? Actually, you know what's weird is that he would actually do very well if he played like SDY's roles or
right.
Probably not Perfecto. He's not really that passive, but like just a little bit more aggressive, which is more SDY's alley. Okay. Did you guys want to talk about any other teams in Blast? I'm kind of ready to move on, but if you guys want to go in on
we got some Patreon questions to do. We got some stuff, so yeah, I'm pretty good to move on to.
How about because actually usually I want these to be under 2 hours. You want to hit? Should we do Patreon? No, but the little news things that I have written down shouldn't be too long, so we'll get those out, and then we'll just use Patreon questions and finish the show out like normal. So let's do RMR locations. I didn't think this was that. I mean, I thought this was like kind of frustrating. Is that like the Malta thing for EU was pretty expected because that's where they're doing Pro League. Like that's nothing too crazy. But then the one that Moses got upset about earlier today is that for the Americas RMR, it's going to be in Sweden. So that means they're going to be flying everybody from Brazil and from America out to all the way to Sweden, which is a little bit weird. But then there was kind of some back and forth about why that was probably the case, because actually getting a visa to America is pretty hard for even probably Brazilians. So, but like, do you guys have any opinions on the fact that the Americas RMR is in Sweden?
I don't know enough about like why it is in Sweden and like what the reasons kind of are and like the pros and cons to like really have a strong opinion about it. So,
okay, that's a very like wise way to put it. That just don't have anything to say. Then just,
like, I mean, it's pretty easy to say like, why the fuck isn't it in America? But it's like there must be like some reason. Like,
I can understand not hosting it in the U.S. just because it is hard to get visas in Brazil. Like I think one of the Argentinian players or coaches or something, like someone from one of the Argentinian teams was like, yeah, Argentina isn't even issuing visas right now, so you can't even like necessarily get into the U.S. at all. I don't know why. Like the question isn't why they didn't host it in the U.S. It's why they didn't host it in Brazil. For me, Brazil... like that's the main question. Like the major's in Brazil already. Why are you moving like everyone from the Americas to the U.S. instead of having it in Brazil? Also, like the majority of teams qualified right now are from Brazil anyway.
Yeah, I'll say I feel like some people were suggesting the suggestions I saw were LA studio, but that just is invalidated by the fact that people can't get into America.
Yes.
Then people were saying Mexico, but I was like, you can't just throw out a country and just be like, that's cool. Like that just also kind of makes I don't really. ESL has no infrastructure in Mexico. They'd have to basically put a whole tournament together just for that. And for Brazil, that definitely is probably the most reasonable option since people are gonna have to go there anyways. So get it figured out now if you got to go to Brazil. Like have a passport. And with Sweden, they have infrastructure. They have stuff set up already there. They're gonna be able to like host them and house them. But it is far, and it is like. Okay, how about this? Was this an overreaction from community members to even get upset that it's going to be in Sweden? Like, should we be mad? Like now
if this was like really
police
early
their
on,
emotions.
Yeah. If this was really early on, I think like in the lifespan of NA sort of shifting gears and basically fading out in terms of overall relevance, maybe I'd be a little bit more understandable. But at this point, like. CS lives in Europe for now, and hopefully it becomes more global as Valve starts to seemingly, do more things behind the scenes and globally with like their rank update that they did recently. They're trying to show a little bit of love to the game, it seems like. So hopefully that's all well and good. But for now, it's like, EU is the hub, right? And so I'm not even really surprised by it. I guess like I didn't think about it. You'd think America's RMR would be in America. Or one of the Americas, and you think maybe you could do like an event in Canada or something if there's like less rules there. But if the issue is that we can like logistically this is the best area to do it because it has the least number of sacrifices, whatever you need to do to get the tournament running is what you need to do. So I mean, you can blame ESL for a lot of things. You can't blame them for literally like some country not issuing visas. You know what I mean? So
it is a weird. So I just linked a response from the Flying DJ, but it's kind of weird because he dodges Richard's question because Richard asked him, please go on public record why you didn't have the Americas RMR in Brazil, and he's like, I have in other comments, original key plan covering regions, and he's like, America, US, like that's not an answer to the question though. Like why did you not have it in Brazil?
I think how he's understanding the question, what Richard is saying is like, why didn't you go from the US to a Brazil minor, or not minor, but fucking RMR?
Yeah,
and how he's understanding the question is like. Well, Richard's saying, like, why didn't you have it from Brazil in the first place, I think?
Yes.
Like, in terms of the Americas, while Flying DJ understands this, like, he's asking, why didn't you go from having it in the US, like, your original plan, to Brazil is, like, the bad.
But I feel like that question is pretty clear. Like, there's no interpretation. Like, it does seem like he's trying to understand it in a different way. Like, it's not about why it wasn't hosted in the US. It's why it was not hosted in Brazil. Like,
I guess.
Like, the visa issues and going to the US have been a problem for a while. Like, for South American teams. It's not a new thing. So, I don't know. Like, it just seems a little short-sighted, and it also just feels weird. Like, I don't think it's a problem hosting it in Stockholm. I think that's a fine solution, given the fact that they have infrastructure there. It is, like, an answer as to why it wasn't in Brazil would be nice, though. Like, that would... Like, a proper answer as to why that wasn't done would make sense.
Okay.
Because you have, like, if you look at the team list for the event, it's mostly Brazilian teams.
Yeah, it is. So, okay. I think we've covered that. I think we're in a decent agreement on this also. This being like a kind of an issue, non-issue, but like not getting full clarity is a little bit frustrating. So let's talk about the only other team I really wrote down for because I just feel like we're probably not going to talk about it for a while. So let's just give our impressions. Because I'll put it like this. There's been a couple other roster moves with European teams, but I think we're going to see them soon enough that we could just kind of get there when we get there. This is a team that I don't think we're going to ever really watch a tournament for until maybe the RMRs, which is Imperial. And I wanted to talk about Chelo, basically because this affects two teams which have been in the top 30 for a while now. That's MIBR and Imperial, because MIBR are losing their in-game leader in Chelo. MIBR are finally getting rid of the bottom fragger in FNX, and they're moving FNX to a trifecta role. He's like content creator, brand promoter. Like he's gonna
coach.
He's gonna be a coach. He's gonna give everybody back rubs. He's gonna be actually a licensed masseuse.
No major.
No,
so they have to figure out some way.
Well, I just can't. What I can't believe is that he, like, when it's announced, it's like our new coach / content creator. It's like these two things are so different. What do you mean? You know what I mean? So,
I think from the announcement video, so it was obviously in Portuguese, so I had it translated by some of the Dust2BR guys. From what FNX says in that video, he is going to be coaching for the America's RMR and the Rio Major if they qualify. He doesn't really specify whether he's coaching like outside of that though.
Oh, so, yeah, I do remember reading
whether he's coaching in Melbourne for ESL Challenger or if he's coaching for like their subsequent events after the major, it's not really clear.
Surely they find more value in just making him a streamer, honestly. Like, what he's going to provide just going to Melbourne is probably pretty low. In fact, he might even be a distraction. And what he does as a content creator,
hey guys, I'm not playing today. You guys want to go to the club?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He just goads everybody into like drinking the night before or something like that. Yeah. He's like, hey.
Well, you have no proof, and even if you did, well, there's the kanji. There's the
prove it or what? Okay, so
I still can't believe there was like was it Cloud9? There was some team was like wrote that as a response. It might have even been the Immortals like PR guy or something. Like after that happened, they were trying to meme on it, and then the person
Portillo who wrote it for Immortals and then got fired.
Yeah, I was gonna say the person no longer works
working
here.
for Cloud9.
That's
Jesus.
So this is
okay.
Good one.
Okay, how about we talk about this from the I actually Imperial when they get chelo. How much of an improvement do you think this is for them? It's like
large.
Yeah, large. Okay.
Like A plus move.
It's probably going to be a pretty good move. I still just don't understand why this team exists. Like, I know why, really. Cynically, I know why. But, like, the whole idea is that it's the last dance. This dance has gone on quite a while now. So, what is going on?
My guess is it's the last dance. My guess is it's the last dance for, like, this Brazil major, and then they will go their separate ways.
That could be fitting.
That's kind of the vibe I got.
As soon as Fallen and Cold were not playing together, it was no longer a real last dance. The name just kind of stuck because, fuck it.
Yeah. The last dance without Michael Jordan definitely makes sense for sure.
Huge dance. Huge.
It's like the entire like Bulls team like got back together. Michael Jordan is the man.
They're just playing in rec centers with like the star players just Pippin or something. It's like, what are we even watching? This is nothing like we're used to. Okay. Well, I think it's actually a pretty good improvement for Imperial. How about though on the MIBR side? Like, they got Henny. And then they basically made BR Enizan into, I think, I'm just assuming he's the rifler now. So
is that actually how you pronounce that guy's name? Because that's one of like the hardest names to pronounce. I feel like just looking at it.
It's like BR Enizan. That's how I've been saying it since like the showdown back when he first played at Blast, and they literally sent us a voice message and they like say BR Enizan, and then I was like, okay, I'll try that. And then I don't find it too hard, but I'm saying it more like because I learned Spanish and I learned like the Mexican version of Spanish, so like I pronounce like these words, just these consonants like I would for Spanish that I was taught in America. So maybe it's like, I don't know, like I don't know if they say every letter the same in Portuguese or Brazilian Portuguese.
I was on Gallus' stream watching one of the ESEA qualifier matches, and the way he pronounced KNG, I was like, oh, is that how you're supposed to say it? I was like, oh shit, okay.
I just assumed it was supposed to be
Kanage or something. I don't know. No, it was like each letter was pronounced, but it was pronounced like very differently. I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's how you're supposed to say it.
Right. Yeah, I think, okay, well, I'll just give my take on the MIBR thing. I think they actually don't lose as much, even though people might think like, oh, it's their IGL, they're going to lose so much. Like, honestly, this team was not very good tactically speaking when chelo was the in-game leader. I thought that was like the biggest drop-off once they lost Woody. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so once they lost Woody. So
yeah, Woody was like actually a decent IGL despite the fact that he was kind of a bot when it came to opping. So they lost more from that than this. And now that they just kind of improve firepower... Well, actually, that's kind of like... where this is not great for them because Chelo as an individual probably better than BRN. So that's that. Yeah, this is a bit of an L for them, but I haven't really seen them play with Henny yet, so
they're not bad with Henny. Like they're pretty decent. I mean, Henny's obviously always going to be pretty decent. He hasn't been playing as well as he used to for sure, but he's still performing decently.
Do you guys
think the bigger question marks for me on this team is like seeing Turtle and Jota play, but Jota is now IGLing for them, I think. But I think Turtle's supposed to be like the next big prospect from Brazil. Yeah. I mean, there's so many big prospects from Brazil, but I think like Turtle's supposed to be one of the really big ones. But I don't know. I think like other teams have more potential than MIBR do right now. Yeah. Like Luca Zoe is really good on that new Fluxo team, but the team themselves are like struggling a bunch. I don't know if you watched any of their ESEA qualifier matches, but like they're decent, but then like Phelps either owns people or he like gets no kills. Like he was really struggling on the vertigo they played. He was like chucking himself down ramp so much and dying. Like he was getting enteried a lot.
Oh.
But then Lucazui just like gets multi kills all the time. So he's like he'll be fun to watch in some of the other events, I think.
Okay. All right, you guys ready to move on to Patreon questions? We just have we have three.
We got the three, yeah. They're all ready, so if you want to queue them up here.
Let's do it. Patreon questions. Shout out to the patron supporters. We have quite a few patron supporters now, which has been fantastic. You guys are great. But just make sure to get your questions in, guys. That's all I can really say. Like, you guys are doing a lot for us. But if you want to be part of the show in a more interactive way, be sure to submit them via Patreon. And many of you guys have in the past, so I know you guys know how to do it. I'm not going to tell you how. But we still got some of the usuals who are coming in here. We have Spruce Moose. He's going to be the first question. Asked this a few weeks ago, actually, and he said, who is the second best player of 2022 so far? This is a tough one.
That is a tough one.
Dude, that's a really tough one. It's like, no one's really taken that and just like, like grasped it this year, I feel like. The past couple of years, it's been, obviously, like the past, I don't know, like 2 or 3 years, it's just been, Zebu and Simple at the top two. Zebu hasn't really been there this year.
Right. So and then you could usually just also even say Nico as a third answer, another guy, but he's not really there either.
Nico's not been there this year.
No,
not yet.
No, he's not. He's not there.
It's like the only one from FaZe I would really, right? The only one from FaZe I'd really put up there contesting is Brokey. If you want to talk about like team accomplishments combined with stats.
Yeah, but Twist has been playing better in the last of their couple of their tournaments.
I think I don't even know if overall this year.
He has, but I don't know if he's like even a top 10 player. I mean, maybe he's top 10, but not. I don't think he's in the top. Yeah, he's definitely top 10, but I don't think he's like in the top 3 or 4.
When I was looking at it, if I had to really choose a number 2 for this year, I might go with my boy Axel. I feel like he's still been really fucking good.
I feel like they just haven't played that many games compared to some of the others. That's the problem. So
they're not a partner team, so they don't get in all the blast stuff always. And
that's crazy considering their new organization. By the way, I'm surprised that didn't kind of change up.
But also, I assume it's the fact that it's new. I don't know. Yeah. Like how the
Jack is trying for the record. Like he's not trying, but like he told me when I interviewed him at Dallas that he was gonna like. He hasn't had enough time to like talk to organizers yet, but he's gonna talk to ESL about like trying to get into the Luber agreement and trying to get into the lots and whatnot.
Yeah.
I want to throw out a name for my second best player that I don't think is too crazy, but I think the narrative has greatly shifted about this player in the last few months, and that's Blame F. Because in the beginning of the year, when Astralis were struggling, he was still putting up insane numbers, but because he just kind of has the playstyle that he has, it was the bait F was just what everybody said, probably up until April or so, and probably actually because of their disappointing finish at the major, also it was kind of hard to really keep him there. So that's why it's also very difficult here, because if Astralis were a team that made it to the playoffs of the major, even just top 8. I feel like it'd be so easy to put Blame F as the second best player, but because they had such a disappointing major, it's tough. But like then you look at some of the other results that Astralis had throughout the year, like like Cologne, for example, and the fact that they came top, just top 4 at that event. Yeah. And I guess they haven't really done everything. Like, they made playoffs at Pro League, so that was kind of nice for them. They were one map away from making Kato playoffs. Like, it's again, it's just tough. Yeah. It's just tough. I
don't think BlameF would be a bad fit. Because also, like, I think I said this before, but, like, I felt like BlameF almost became, like, almost underrated in a way. Because everyone just like, there was just, like, this, like, narrative that, like, all he does is bait, and none of his frags have, like, any impact at all. And I was just like, well, that's fucking ridiculous when you're putting up, like, numbers like BlameF does. And also, if you go to, like, his, like, opening kill attempts, like, obviously that doesn't tell the whole story, but it's not like he's at, like, fucking 5%, like, like, not doing anything. You know what I mean? Like, he's at a pretty decent number along with his teammates in terms of, like, his opening kill percentage and, like, the attempts he makes.
I'll just name 2 spots where it's, like, impossible for him to have no impact on, and that's on Ancient, because he's their cave guy, so, like, that's pretty much one of the most, if not most important positions on the map.
Yeah, I would say that's the most important position on your T side.
Yeah, so, and he does it on both halves. He does it on both sides.
Yeah, it would be like drop or whatever on the train. You
on Cobble.
Or on Cobble.
Yeah. On either train or Cobble.
No, I think, I mean, and then I think Inferno, like, taking cave like that is like I think you were about to say, is like taking banana on Inferno, like.
And he plays banana Inferno T side. He actually is the guy that is running up first a lot.
It reminds me of Nico on, like, the last year's G2, where he would always be sticking it out in that side or somewhere in mid on Inferno T side.
Like, if BlameF was truly baiting on Ancient, he'd be playing, like, fucking A on T side, and he would just be sitting there holding the fucking stairs the entire half, and then getting late kills. And then on, like, Inferno, he would be Halls, just, like, killing people as they rotate and just not doing anything. Like,
I'll be honest, Halls is just, like, a stat patter's paradise. I feel like that is the easiest shit ever. When I watch demos of people that take Halls now, I'm just, like, not impressed by anything anybody does anymore. Like, everything looks so easy, and, like, because your role, first of all, clearing Halls as a T side player is just so freaking easy. Like, you can spam everything before, and you can basically, like, ride IP until you get to the top of the stairs, and then you can actually just, like, use any utility you want, or just shoot through the wall at them. Like, there's so many options you have, and usually, like, people don't give up free kills at apps unless they're very unfamiliar with the position. So that's why I probably put Blame as mine. But anybody else have another shout out on who could be second best?
I think it would have to be, like, Spinks carrying Vitality to, like, continue his momentum, but it's not there yet. I think the biggest problem is that everything here is... What?
I was just going to say, just wait till you see OC's second half of the year.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the thing, is, like, everything is shambolic still. Like, we talked about the rankings being weird for teams. I think it's the same thing for, like, you would have to take a slice of the year and say, at this point, this guy's performing really well. But I don't think anybody's had consistency yet, for number 2 anyway.
Not really, but even Ziwu hasn't been mega consistent to far and away be the second player or something. So it's actually kind of hard to make a call.
Yeah, it is. It's okay. Let's go on to the next question. Firsoch says, "Would you add cash to the ESEA FaceIt Pug map pool? Is there another map you'd consider adding?" So I don't know what's in the map pool. Let me see what's in the map.
I don't really pug, so you can add anything. It doesn't really affect me.
I thought cash was already in FaceIt. But is that not the case? Did they remove it?
I don't
think it is.
I don't think it is.
It was added when the remake came out, like when FMPwn first had the remake. And I think it was there for a long time, but I didn't know it was removed. So.
Let me see what's on FaceIt.
I mean, personally, I don't like the cash remake, so...
I haven't really been able to figure out why people don't like it, though. Like, what is it about the new one that bothers you? Like,
I guess the only color scheme on it.
Okay, well...
And I also feel like it doesn't really play any different than it did before.
Is that a critique? Did you not like the old cash? Because that's a confusing thing. Is everybody that tells me about cash and how they don't like the new version?
I just don't think it would work in the current meta.
Cash is already part of the... Cash is part of the FaceIt map pool.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. So there you go, firsoch. We would
cash. The thing about cash that I was actually excited for is like, oh, is there gonna be like a new way to kind of like play the map around A main or something, right? Like change it up a bit. But it was just the same map, just like
you can throw deeper retake flashes
and with less FPS. So it was like,
yeah,
it's like I was like,
really all they did was add that window. and then changed like the boost jump a little bit.
They made B a little bit different on the site itself, but it wasn't. Then they removed that too, so it was
like holy fuck, brand new cache and all like a window in mid.
yeah.
I know.
Hey, there's a lamppost you can stand on.
I was gonna say that. That's like the only. Those are some of the only changes I really even think about. It's like, oh, I have to look up. Like,
I like that red is.
I mean, there is like the truck angle to like red now.
Yeah.
There is
truck
like
that's true. That is something. That's something.
I think
I don't know. I just feel like it isn't.
Yeah.
Like it's not substantial enough.
FM Pone was hoping that like, oh man, all of this sick work I'm doing on the graphics, people are gonna love this map. And then, first of all, it's in the same game as, like, you know, Inferno textures and Mirage textures. Second of all, you then have the update where all the skins came out and ruined visibility for the game forever.
Oh, the agents. Yeah.
It's like the same fucking time, basically. He releases the map, and then it gets added to the game because Valve like cash, and then instantly they add skins, and it's like, oh, okay. Well, kiss my visibility goodbye.
I guess. Okay, how about this? Let's answer the second part of his question. Is there another map you'd consider adding? Like
Iris, Anubis, Sub-Zero. Yeah, I can go on.
I mean,
hear me out.
What?
You take Fracture from Valorant and put it in CS.
Oh god, hell no. Okay, all right, you're off the show.
Yeah, you're off the show.
He's officially converted. He's officially converted.
Honestly,
I don't even know how that map plays. Still,
I would bring Train back.
Why not?
Train.
I actually like Train, just in general. Like I thought people got bored of it, obviously, but I think like there was never really anything wrong with them.
No, there was never anything. If you think about what we lost Train for, it's really embarrassing. Like the fact that Ancient came in.
Train was like so much more like I still feel like Ancient has potential, but they haven't fucking done anything to like make it interesting.
They removed a thing that they added on A. Isn't that so epic? They changed it to add it, and then they changed it to remove it. Great.
I think Ancient has potential, but they just need to do more frequently to just feel things out. Even if it
Train was like Train was like actually interesting. Train was interesting because in terms of like how you block off vision at A and how that affects like what you're doing at B and like all that type of shit. Like it was a very cool like chess game being played.
Yeah. It was great for tactics and it was great for nuance, and you could make decisions even as a T side where you were theoretically at a huge disadvantage. Like everybody and their mother knew Train was CT sided. It didn't matter because good Train teams and especially good tactical teams could still find success executing strategies and finding ways to min max. So.
If you really want to on Train, like you can get out to Olaf and like, you know, throw a smoke there and, you know, play out in like yard like every single round with like the right flashes if you want to. Yeah. And obviously it opens up like a whole world of just different shit you can do.
Just imagine FaZe versus NaVi on Train right now.
Come on.
Oh,
give it to me.
So sick.
Oh yeah.
He's so good.
Give that to me over Vertigo and Ancient any day. Seriously.
Yeah, I would take that too. I mean, I'll just say that right now I think that Anubis, in terms of new maps, has the most potential right today.
Yes.
I feel like it feels really pretty good to play. And I think that the only thing I would change on Anubis is I don't really love how mid interacts when you cross the bridge and you have to like go through the double doors and you have to look left, look right. Like that. Yeah. Change that to a slant, and I think that map is really good, actually.
It's kind of like an enforced way to make it so that you really want to go with the buddy system and trade, but like there's more elegant ways to do that than just basically making it you must do it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. It just it needs to be a little bit different for me. But
it's also like a very different map from the other maps that are in the pool right now, so I like it a lot for that.
Yeah, just in terms like of the tactical diversity it has. It's what we were talking about with Train. It's like the things that you can do on that map that you can't do anywhere else, you know?
It kind of makes me... It kind of gives me like Cobblestone vibes. It doesn't play the same or anything, but like just the way it's kind of like more open and structured in certain places.
Yeah. I also think that the bomb site fights feel sick. I feel like they're so good. Like the... actually, I kind of forget which bomb site is which. The one that's like basically there's like a center circular like cylinder.
The cylinder is A and the big tower obelisk is B. So
so A has that really cool like circular dynamic to it and like those kind of like walls that block. I love it. I just think it's really fun. I think it's actually fun to play in retake servers too, surprisingly. And also I think I would probably just throw in Tuscan because I think Tuscan just needs more playtesting. I think it's really actually quite good. Just because the foundation of the map was really, the bones of it were great. But I do think that people aren't wrong to say that it needs a little bit of an update. But I actually think that update could just be open up the skybox in a few areas. And I think then T's have a few more options in terms of how they throw nades. Like, I feel like there needs to be a better way to stop CT aggressions other than just by throwing a smoke on everything. Like, because it feels bad to go into B main early in rounds because you can get pinched from short B, long B, and from mid at the same time. And all the CTs need to throw is one smoke to block off the A main to mid little tunnel, like that angle or whatever, that like hallway. Because like, and then they're done. Like then they can just pinch you from 3 sides, and it's like, this doesn't feel even fair. Like, why am I the one that has to defend this spot when I'm a T? It just feels kind of dumb. So
I have a video coming on Tuscan, but I'll summarize one of the points, which is that really one of the things that they could do to make the map more dynamic is obviously the grenade skybox thing. The fact that there's so many walls and giant things in the sky, like the towers are so big. That thing in CT spawn, you can't even, there's a skybox volume blocking your nades, so you can't even throw retake flashes to get back onto A. It's like I don't know why that decision was made. And then the other thing that is really weird is that there's no sight lines anywhere. Like there's not even like I can't jump through this window, but I can see through it or anything. Like if you had an angle from like the T mid to the A mid that you were talking about, Maui, the one that keeps getting smoked off right now. If you had like an angle into that area, then suddenly there's more threat and you have to like decide more things. I don't know. It's like one way to make it more complex. It's really weird that it's such definitely a blast from the past. Also, the tunnel's useless. Nobody should go there.
The tunnel
the tunnel weird. Feels like not something that should be in a CS map.
Yeah,
like not necessarily shouldn't be
kind of just a weird map, gimmick.
But it's just like there's no other map that like you go into some place and you're stuck there. Like there's no other angles. There's like no alternative routes. Like you go into that cave and you're just like stuck for another 15 seconds.
It's almost a 30-second walk from from the ladder at the bottom from T side entrance to the door, and then you have a door. So. Then you have to make
that's why admittedly I think Mill was better actually, where the Mill one you could go all the way through the tunnels to B, so at least there's a second option, even though it took forever if you walk the whole way.
This is a really long rotation where if you take tunnel control you have more things to do, but right now it's just like it's basically a dead end. So
yeah, it just takes away a couple angles from A defenders. If you get that area, whatever. You
isolate the door anyway, though, on A. Like if you're backstabbing to try to trade, like it's actually a worse position for the T's to trade from at a high level. You would want 2 people arch side instead on A, so that they could walk in, clear like the different spots, and then like that's better for your trading potential than somebody coming in from the tunnel anyway. Plus the fact that it's so telegraphed. I thought what would be interesting is if there was like a ladder up to the sightline from arch to the CT spawn area, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Like this, if you're in that really weird tuck away spot that's like deeper than you think behind those boxes on A, you're looking straight at arch. If there was a way to go from, like, there's a ladder there that takes you down into the tunnel, then there's suddenly some way that you can surprise somebody as a T side as part of a take. Something like that.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like the boxes that are kind of close towards top mid.
It's not the one that you boost into. It's just the one that you can step into, and it looks like there's no, like, it's a ninja spot basically. It's like Ninja on Mirage, where it's like you think you cleared it, but you didn't. If you're not careful.
Okay.
Or if you're just coming out of the CT spawn and you look towards arch, like if there was a way to go into tunnel from there, then suddenly that could be a fast rotation. That could be something different. Like there's ways that you could make the map work that way if you want to keep the tunnel. But as of right now, it's useless. So I don't know why anybody would go there.
Okay. Let's move on to Badroenis' question, which he just submitted. Thank you for getting this one in time. And then we'll do shoutouts. So his question is, before the grenade update, everyone was limited to 4 grenades per round. Now, by dropping grenades, you can buy more, but you're still limited to carrying 4 at a time. Do you think allowing players to hold more than 4 nades at a time would be good or bad for CS?
I can tell you, like, the funniest thing that I can think of coming from this is, like, imagine you're on a team and this happens. And then, like, you're made the guy that's, like, designated to hold all the fucking grenades for everyone. You just kind of know where you're placing the team.
Are you thinking, like, holding 20 grenades, or are you thinking holding 5?
If it's just unlimited, then, you
hold unlimited.
Yeah, like, you're literally a dispenser.
Would be very bad.
Like,
unlimited would be stupid.
Like, what if you can just hold, like, 10? you just give them to, like, 2 people just on each site, and you just know that, like, your entire job now is to throw grenades for me, bitch. Like...
Yeah, that would be very... Okay, some reason my brain automatically just thought he meant 5 grenades.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Well, it is more than 4, I guess, so maybe, yeah.
Okay, well, he's writing in chat right now. The thought was still 1 of each type. Okay, so 5.
Wait, 1 of each type? That's just a decoy, and then you lose the ability to stack flashbangs, so I'm confused.
Oh wait, he's saying 5 or 6.
This question needs revision, homie.
Yeah.
No, okay. Here's the thing. I actually made a mod for CSGO, and in it there are unlimited grenade holdings. You can carry as many as you can afford.
Well,
but it's not actually.
Yeah, exactly.
That
I think he
ridiculous.
means like an HE, Molly, smoke, flash.
Oh,
so like 5 nades.
Okay. So he's literally just adding one more to it. Yeah, so like the limit is 1 more. So now you can carry 3 flashes, or you can carry 2 smokes.
No, I think he means you can also carry a grenade essentially along with like the hold kit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's
a very specific change. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, just like you can carry 2 flashes, molly, smoke, and nade, but usually you have to subtract 1 nade out of that.
Yeah, you either don't pick an HE or you don't pick a flash usually. So
yeah exactly.
Flash.
I mean, I'll say that my initial gut reaction was that this would just favor CTs because then they could just stack more utility and cycle through it throughout the round and just dump it on their position to defend it. But then I also thought that this would be kind of cool because usually what happens is Ts just don't pick up a grenade ever. Like it's almost always flash, smoke, molly at a high level. But if they had 5 nades, I think that'd be kind of sick because we see all these gimmicky fun plays for nade stacks on T-side rounds, like on half-buy rounds, like, you know, the air strike into mid-window on Mirage from top mid behind the top mid smoke, or just
like overpass jump spot.
Yep. Overpass jump spot, nade stacking car on Inferno, Banana. Like there's a lot of fun ways that could work. But I still think that other than these very specific use cases, more often than not, the CTs are just going to get ahead because of it. Because it's just easier for them to know what they're going to nade. Like they just.
I feel like CTs already kind of buy an extra nade anyway, though, because you can just drop the flash or a nade and spawn and then juggle it over. So I feel like that on some maps at least that already happens. So I don't know if it would necessarily favor CTs. Because think about
it would
this.
make it more ubiquitous.
I think it would actually favor T's more because think about having an extra nade as T every round. Like you can essentially nade stack 1 spot at the start of every round. Like imagine you're trying to play B and every single round, there's 3 nades just get chucked at you at car. You're like, okay, cool. Guess I'm not playing car for the rest of the half.
At a pro level, it would be so optimized that it would probably just be living hell. So
exactly. That's the thing. Every round, you're getting triple naded in 1 spot at least. That would just suck.
I mean, it's $300 per player, but still, it's not that much in the grand scheme of things. Especially a T-side economy, you're probably going to have a little bit of extra. So
someone just said ban Inferno.
Well, that's because it's already a disaster over in Banana every round when there's a full buy. So
exactly.
It does feel like you're playing battleships in Inferno or Banana a lot of the time. I guess now that you mention that, I am kind of leaning towards the fact that it would be pretty cool for I think T's having 5 nades would be sick, actually. I think thinking about what the strategy would be for those grenades every round would be an added element to the game that I don't think would be counteracted too hard by CT stacking utility, because I actually think you're right, Note, that they kind of essentially do have 5 grenades per round once the CTs start building up. Yeah, once they build up economy. So actually, you know what? I kind of want to see that happen. But
I don't mind it because it almost would counteract a little bit of the CT imbalance as well. That would be pretty decent as a change.
Here's my thing. When do we make it so that when you die, you drop all of your grenades? That's what I want. Think about those changes. Instead of just dropping the most recently equipped one.
I don't want it to be like PUBG.
Yeah,
why not? Drop your secondary too. Let me get that Deagle Hopper. Come on, let's fucking
you get their Kevlar and their helmet.
Yeah.
Equipping it.
Hold on, I'm equipping Kevlar, and it's like a 5-second.
Oh channel. No, you know how badly that would go? That'd be like, hey Sanji, just buy armor and run into Banana, and I'll pick up your armor after you die.
Just med shots too and stuff like that.
Why don't we? I honestly I don't understand. CSGO is the med shot almost seems pointless to me because of how it would actually manifest in changes, but it's such a quick game. You usually aren't surviving with usually you have more HP than it's actually useful for, because for people who don't know, it restores 50 life. So usually you have either more than that or you die. There's sometimes you'll live with 28 or whatever, but.
Dude, I don't want to see Counter-Strike with med shots. I just don't need health recovering in that game. It's just not. I don't want that.
Let's get that shield. Let's get those bump mines, man. Imagine the bump mines. Dust 2 with bump mines.
Oh no! I mean, that's
Vertigo with bump mines. Vertigo. That's how you make Vertigo a good map. You had bump mines.
Okay, so Alex, the show is just gonna be me and you. Mix is kicked off for Valorant opinions, and Pronogo's kicked off for just unreasonable update opinions.
He's just gonna map make. Pronogo's gonna be in a picture-in-picture, and he's gonna make a map by the end of the episode, and then we look at it every time. Okay, that's gonna be it. Let's do shoutouts. I never do my shoutout last, so I'll go first this time. Geez, it's hard. Why did I ever volunteer to go first? I'll just shout out all the people that subscribed in on Twitch. You know, like, it doesn't really provide you with anything, but it is a way that you show support, and it's directly to me because nobody else here gets anything from the Twitch subs other than me. So appreciate you, Twitch subs. and
subscribe on Patreon.
Yeah. I would say that honestly, if you want to support the show and all four of us, then subscribe on Patreon. And shout out to Vu's cat named Maui, which is always funny that it's.
I need this Patreon subs to support my family, pay my rent.
Yeah.
Valorant is hard after all.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling pay-per-views.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Mix. Who's your shout out? And I say who because it's always a person.
Okay, I'll shout out TC Tion, head coach of Complexity. It's his birthday a couple days ago. So shout out to him. Great coach. Great guy. He's responsible for my entire career, so if any of you don't like me, you can go blame him.
I feel like MSL was there before TC.
No. TC was before that. Bravado was before Rogue.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Okay. Wow, that's the lore of Mix.
Yeah, and I got on Rogue because of my shit on Bravado, so...
Wait, how do you not know the lore of Mix? I did an interview with him. You didn't even read the interview.
That's fucking crazy.
That's fucked up.
I definitely read it, but I definitely didn't retain every single word.
There's an HLTV interview, and there's a Dust 2 one. You gotta read the Dust 2 one for the lore.
Both by me.
Insane, I don't have an HLTV interview. Okay, Pronogo, what is your shout-out, Pronogo?
Shout out Prof from HLTV because he was probably going to be on here at some point. So I'll have to start making amends for all of my HLTV hate speech. There you go.
Okay, that's
you're holding us back.
No, who's your shout out for the show?
I will shout out notcreative.com1 on Reddit, who had a funny fucking reply in the Astralis thread. So when Astralis lost that qualifier match, their last one, there was a comment in the thread that said, "I hope Astralis are invited to my funeral as pallbearers so they can let me down one more time." Yeah. And then notcreative.com1 said, "Yes, the only way they'll be able to come to your funeral is by invite." So that guy is my shout out.
Not bad at all. All right. Well, that's going to be it for episode 35 of It's Server Time. Thanks to everybody in the live chat for being fun chatter participants. Thanks to everybody that is subscribed on Patreon. You guys help fund the show and keep it going. And honestly, if you're still here watching, well, give yourself a pat on the back. That's all I'm going to say about that. Catch you guys next time on It's Server Time, where we will be covering probably something that's going on in Pro League, because that's going to be coming up after the Blast Fall groups, and I'm sure we'll get a show in as
what we should start doing is, like, at the end of these, like, you know, like, we have, like, the whole, like, fucking long outro, right? Just maybe, like, 5 minutes or something of just us talking about, like, random shit, so people definitely tune out. And then at the end, we just drop some, like, actual fucking banger of, like, some, like, insider news or something.
Oh, yeah, like, saying something like the junior move was going to happen for a very long time. Okay, yeah, that's going to be it. Peace. Let's go.